The midnight hour deepens, and the atmosphere in the hold becomes even more still, as if the ocean itself is holding its breath. You turn your attention to the most prized of all your possessions, the black pepper. In 1320, these tiny shriveled berries are the currency of kings, capable of buying cities and funding entire armadas. You pull a large, heavy sack toward you. Unlike the delicate silk of the floral spices, this bag is made of thick, rugged burlap to protect its precious contents from the harsh salt air. As you loosen the heavy knot, the scent that rises is sharp, aggressive, and intoxicatingly earthy. It is a smell that speaks of the jungle, of dark, damp earth and the fierce heat of the sun. You plunge your hand into the bag, feeling the cool, dry texture of thousands of individual peppercorns. They slide through your fingers like rough-hewn pearls, making a sound like falling rain against a tin roof. This is the black gold of the Malabar coast, the reason you have spent months away from home navigating the treacherous currents and avoiding the predatory eyes of rival fleets. You take a small wooden scoop and begin to transfer the pepper into smaller, more manageable leather pouches. Each scoop is a deliberate act of meditation. The sound of the grains hitting the leather is a dull, satisfying thud. You focus on the weight of the scoop, the resistance of the pepper as you push into the pile, and the way the light catches the oily sheen on the surface of the spice. The dhow performs a long, slow roll to the starboard side, and you lean with it, your center of gravity perfectly aligned with the heart of the ship. The wood beneath you hums with the vibration of the deep water, a low-frequency rumble that you feel in your chest. It is a reminder of the thousands of fathoms of blue-black water beneath your sandals. Yet the sensation is one of total security. You are cradled by the craftsmanship of 100 shipbuilders who knew how to make wood dance with the waves. As you work, the aroma of the pepper begins to clear your mind, sharpening your senses. You notice the subtle variations in the ship's creaks, the high-pitched strain of the rigging above, the deep groaning moan of the floorboards, and the soft liquid slap of the sea against the hull. These sounds form a symphony of the voyage, a familiar arrangement that tells you all is well. You look at the rows of bags already filled and feel a sense of profound accomplishment. To the world outside, these are commodities, but to you they are a collection of moments. The sight of the pepper vines climbing the trees in the foothills of the Ghats, the smell of the drying floors in the sun, and the heavy humidity of the trading ports. You pause for a moment, letting your hands rest on the open burlap. The flickering lamp creates a halo of warmth around you, while the corners of the cabin remain draped in soft, mysterious shadows. You are a silent witness to the passage of time, a guardian of the ancient roots that have connected civilizations for millennia. The silence is profound, broken only by the elements and your own steady breathing. It is in these quiet moments, far from the clamor of the world, that you find a deep, restorative peace. The world's most precious scents are your companions, and the rhythmic lapping of the waves is your guide. If you're finding peace in the hold of this ancient dhow, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and share your thoughts in the comments. Your support helps us continue to bring these historical journeys to life, providing a sanctuary of relaxation and wonder for everyone who seeks it. Let the journey continue as we delve deeper into the secrets of the merchant's hold. The task of the pepper is nearly complete. You pull the drawstrings tight on the final leather pouch. Feeling the solid, heavy mass of the spice within, you stack it atop the others, creating a sturdy wall of wealth that will sustain your family for years to name. The physical labor is light, but the mental release is immense. Every bag organized is a worry dismissed. Every cent appreciated is a memory preserved. The dhow continues its tireless march across the Indian Ocean, a speck of light and life in the vast darkness, carrying its fragrant cargo toward horizons unknown. You close your eyes and let the scent of the Malabar coast wash over you once more, feeling the deep, rhythmic tranquility of the sea settling into your very soul. The pepper is secured and its sharp, biting energy lingers in the air, but your hands move toward a smaller, more delicate container. This one is carved from dark sandalwood, its lid fitting so perfectly that it requires a gentle twisting pull to release. As the seal breaks, the room is transformed. The scent of cardamom, the queen of spices, floats out like a cool mist. It is green, herbal, and slightly camphoraceous, a scent that feels like a breath of fresh mountain air amidst the humid heat of the ship's hold. Inside the box lie the pods, plump and dusty green, their husks protecting the tiny, oil-rich black seeds that hold the true essence of the plant. You pick up a handful, and they feel like smooth river pebbles, light and cool. You begin the process of sorting them by size and color, moving them into small silk sachets dyed a pale emerald green. Each pod you touch is a testament to the lush, rain-drenched slopes of the cardamom hills. The sound of the pods brushing against one another is soft and delicate, a brittle, papery rustle that contrasts with the heavy thud of the pepper you handled moments before. The ship sways, a long, languorous movement that feels like the ocean is taking a deep, satisfied sigh. You shift your weight, feeling the coarse texture of the choir mat beneath your legs. The silence of the midnight sea is not a void, it is a presence. It is a thick, protective layer that separates you from the worries of the shore. Out here, there are no debts, no politics, no bustling crowds, only the equilibrium of the boat and the integrity of your cargo. You find yourself focusing on the minute details of a single cardamom pod, tracing the three-sided ridge of its husk with your fingernail. This level of focus is a form of prayer, a way of honoring the earth's bounty. The lamp's flame leans to the left as the dhow catches a subtle change in the wind. You hear the distant, muffled shout of the serang on deck, followed by the rhythmic slapping of ropes against the mast as the sail is adjusted. The sounds are comforting. They mean the crew is vigilant, watching the stars and the swell while you curate the treasures below. The scent of the sandalwood box begins to mingle with the cardamom, creating a sophisticated woody perfume that calms your pulse. You feel a sense of timelessness. Merchants have sat in hulls like this for centuries before you, and they will sit in them for centuries to come, all of them enchanted by the same aromas and lulled by the same rhythmic creak of the timber. Your movements become even slower, more deliberate. There is no need for haste. The ocean does not hurry, and neither should you. You place the filled emerald sachets into a small wicker basket, lining them up like soldiers. The visual order of your work brings a quiet joy to your mind. As you finish the last of the cardamom, you lean your head back against the curved teak rib of the ship. The wood is cool and vibrates with the energy of the water. You can feel the sea through the hull, the immense cold weight of the Indian Ocean pressing against the planks, held back by nothing but craftsmanship and resin. It is a profound realization of trust. You trust the ship, you trust the sea, and you trust the rhythm of the journey. The air in the cabin is now a complex symphony of scents. The bass note of the wood, the heart note of the pepper, and the high, bright top note of the cardamom. It is a fragrance that no king's palace could ever truly replicate, for it lacks the salt air and the motion of the waves. You close your eyes, letting the aroma swirl around you, feeling the boundaries of your body soften until you are just another part of the ship, another element of the midnight voyage. The world is vast, but in this moment, it is contained entirely within the four walls of your hold. The darkness outside is irrelevant. The gold in your hands and the peace in your heart are the only truths that remain. With the cardamom safely tucked away, your hands reach for a heavy square crate made of camphor wood. Even before you pry open the lid, the cooling medicinal scent of the camphor drifts upward, acting as a natural guardian for the treasures within. You use a small iron pry bar to gently lift the wood, revealing layers of soft, unspun cotton. Nestled deep within this white cloud are several small, leather-bound bundles. You lift one out. It is surprisingly heavy for its size. This is the nutmeg, the mysterious fruit of the Banda Islands. Brought to the Malabar ports through a dozen different hands and 1,000 miles of sea. You unwrap the leather to reveal the hard ovoid seeds, each one etched with deep, brain-like fissures. Along with the nutmeg comes its sister spice, mace, the lacy, bright crimson aril that once wrapped around the shell like a delicate cage. In the dim lamplight, the dried mace has turned a deep, burnt orange, looking like a collection of fossilized autumn leaves. You take a moment to simply breathe in the aroma. Nutmeg is a deep, intoxicating scent, warm, resinous, and slightly sweet, with a hidden edge that feels almost like a physical heat. You begin to arrange the nutmeg seeds into a small, velvet-lined tray, placing them one by one. The sound they make as they touch the wood is a solid, grounding clack, a sound of substance and density. You move with the ship, your body swaying in a wide arc as a larger swell passes beneath the bow. You feel the ship lift, hover for a heartbeat at the crest, and then slide down into the trough with a smooth, watery hiss. The teak hull groans in approval, a deep, resonant sound that vibrates through your seat and up into your spine. It is the sound of a living thing, a wooden whale carrying you through the dark. The mace requires a much gentler touch. It is brittle and precious, easily shattered if handled roughly. You use a pair of silver tongs to lift the orange flakes, placing them into small glass vials stopped with cork. Each flake is a masterpiece of nature's design, a complex web of organic lines. The contrast between the rugged, stone-like nutmeg and the fragile, ethereal mace is a reminder of the diversity of the world you travel. The air in the cabin is becoming a thick, sensory fog. The scents are no longer separate entities, they have begun to fuse into a single overwhelming perfume of the Orient. It is a smell that represents the very peak of 15th century luxury, a scent that people in far-off lands will dream of, fight for, and treasure above all else. As you work, you find your mind wandering to the markets of Calicut, the city of spices. You remember the sights of the sprawling waterfront, the colorful sails of Chinese junks and Arab dhows, and the endless rows of spice stalls under the scorching sun. But that world was loud, frantic, and exhausting. Here, in the middle of the ocean at midnight, you have the luxury of silence. You have the time to appreciate the curve of a single seed and the texture of a piece of bark. The solitude of the merchant's hold is a rare gift, a space where the value of these items is measured not in gold coins but in the peace they provide to the one who tends them. The swaying of the lamp creates a rhythmic play of light and shadow on the ceiling, mimicking the movement of the stars you know are shining brightly above the deck. You feel a deep sense of connection to the navigators and the sailors above, yet you are grateful for your private sanctuary below. The world is moving, the wind is blowing, and the ship is sailing. But inside this cabin there is a profound, unshakable stillness. You are the center of the storm, the keeper of the fragrant flame, and as the night progresses, the tranquility of the sea becomes your own. The work continues as the night stretches toward the early hours of morning. You reach for a final, large chest, bound in iron and smelling of the salt spray that has occasionally kissed its exterior. Inside, wrapped in layers of dyed linen, are the cloves. These are the dried flower buds of a tropical evergreen, harvested far to the east in the Moluccas. As you pull back the linen, the scent is sharp, piercing, and almost cold in its intensity. It is a fragrance that cleanses the senses, a powerful antiseptic aroma that cuts through the musky sweetness of the other spices. You take a handful and they feel like tiny, hard nails against your skin. You begin to sort them, removing any stems or broken pieces, ensuring that only the perfect crown-like buds remain for your most prestigious clients. The sound of the cloves falling into a ceramic jar is high and metallic, a sharp tink-tink-tink that punctuates the low groan of the ship's timbers. Each bud is a dark reddish-brown spear, carrying a concentrated essence of heat and oil. The ship gives a long, slow tilt to the left, and you watch the oil in the lamp climb the side of the glass reservoir, a golden liquid shifting in perfect harmony with the sea. The world outside the hull is a vast, churning mystery, but here everything is under your control. You are organizing a world of flavor, a map of human desire. Your breathing has slowed to match the rhythm of the waves, a deep and effortless cycle that brings a sense of lightness to your chest. The exhaustion of the day's travel has been replaced by a focused, quiet energy. There is a profound beauty in the repetition of the task: sort, pour, seal, stack. It is a ritual as old as trade itself, a way of bringing order to the wild abundance of nature. The cloves are the final piece of the evening's puzzle, the punctuation mark on a long day of stewardship. As you seal the last jar with a heavy plug of cork and a drip of red wax, you look around your cabin. The bags of pepper are stacked like a fortress, the silk pouches of cardamom and anise are tucked away like jewels, and the cinnamon quills sit in their cedar beds. The air is so thick with spice that you can almost taste it on your tongue, a complex bittersweet flavor that speaks of the earth's deepest secrets. You feel a wave of gratitude for this vessel, for the sturdy teak and the skilled hands on deck that keep the water at bay. You are a merchant, yes, but in this quiet hour, you are also a witness to the extraordinary. You have seen the world through its sense, and it is a beautiful, fragrant place. If you're enjoying this journey through time and sense, please consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the like button. Your engagement helps us keep these stories sailing across the digital seas. We invite you to share in the comments what period of history brings you the most peace. Your support is the wind in our sails, allowing us to create more moments of historical tranquility just for you. Sleepy History with Wesley is a sleep history storytelling platform created for entertainment, inspiration, education, and the promotion of positive emotional values. The task of sorting is finished, but the night is far from over. You decide to spend these remaining hours in quiet contemplation, surrounded by the fruits of your labor. You lean back against the curved hull, the solid teak ribs of the dhow supporting your spine like the embrace of an old friend. The lamp has burned low, its flame now a small, steady point of amber light that barely reaches the corners of the room. In this dimness, the textures of the hold become more pronounced. You can see the rough grain of the wood, the soft sheen of the silk, and the dull, matted finish of the burlap sacks. The ship's motion has transitioned into a long, rhythmic pitch, a slow rise and a deliberate fall that mimics the breathing of the deep ocean. Each time the bow dips, you hear the muffled explosion of white water being tossed aside, a soft, rushing sound that signifies the vessel's progress through the dark. The air remains heavy and still, a thick perfume that has now permeated your clothes, your hair, and your very skin. You have become one with the cargo. You reach out and touch a nearby sack of peppercorns, feeling the cool, bumpy surface through the fabric. It is strange to think that these small, dried berries will eventually travel thousands of miles more, passing through the hands of caravan leaders in the Levant, Venetian sailors in the Mediterranean, and eventually reaching the kitchens of kings in lands where the sun is pale and the air is cold. To them, these spices are a miracle. To you, they are the quiet companions of a midnight voyage. You feel a sense of pride in your role as their protector. Without you and this ship, the world would be a blander, colder place. This realization brings a deep sense of purpose that settles in your chest like a warm coal. The isolation of the sea, which might terrify some, is your greatest comfort. Here, there are no distractions, there is no noise of the city, no demands of family, no pressure of the clock. There is only the eternal now of the rolling ocean. You watch a small spider, a tiny traveller that must have boarded in Calicut, spinning a web between two overhead beams. It moves with the same unhurried precision that you use to sort the cloves. Even in the heart of a merchant ship, miles from land, life finds a way to establish its own order. You feel a kinship with the small creature. You are both spinning your own webs of connection across the globe. The groan of the ship changes pitch as a gust of wind fills the great lateen sail above. You can hear the rigging tighten, a series of high-pitched pings and creaks that sound like a giant lute being tuned. The ship accelerates slightly, the hiss of the water against the hull growing more insistent. It is a productive sound, the sound of distance being conquered. Your eyes begin to grow heavy, the intoxicating scents acting as a natural sedative. The sharp clove, the warm cinnamon, and the earthy pepper create a sensory blanket that wraps around your mind. You aren't quite ready to sleep, but you allow yourself to drift into a state of half-wakefulness, where the boundaries between the ship and the sea begin to blur. You imagine the roots of the pepper vines deep in the Malabar soil, drawing up the energy of the earth, and you feel that same energy vibrating through the ship's planks. You are connected to the land even here, in the center of the watery wilderness. The rhythmic lapping of the waves becomes a heartbeat, a steady, pulsing reassurance that you are safe, you are held, and you are exactly where you need to be. The 15th century is a time of vast mysteries and unexplored horizons, but inside this hold, everything is known and everything is peaceful. You let your chin drop to your chest, breathing in the final lingering notes of the cardamom, and let the tranquility of 1420 take full possession of your spirit. The lamp's oil is nearly spent, the flame flickering with a soft rhythmic pulse that mirrors the Tao's slow dance upon the swells. In this waning light, the merchant's hold feels like a sacred grotto, a place where the material world and the world of dreams intersect. You reach out one last time, your fingers grazing the edge of a heavy sandalwood chest. The wood is smooth, polished by the hands of craftsmen and the humidity of the tropics. Even without opening it, the faint buttery scent of the wood mingles with the fading sharpness of the cloves, creating a fragrance that feels ancient and indestructible. You realize that while these spices will eventually be consumed, ground into powders, stirred into stews, or burned in censers, the memory of this night, this specific silence, will remain etched into the timber of the ship itself. The ship's groaning has become a familiar dialogue. You begin to recognize the specific voice of each plank and beam. There is the deep bass moan of the keelson, bearing the weight of the mast, the mid-range chatter of the ribs as they flex against the pressure of the Indian Ocean, and the high, thin whistle of the wind through the small gaps in the upper deck. It is a living symphony, a testament to the endurance of the Malabar Tao. You feel a profound respect for the wood, the teak that grew for 100 years in the mountain forests before being shaped into this hull. It has transitioned from a standing tree to a floating sanctuary, and now it carries the world's most volatile treasures across the dark water with a grace that seems almost sentient. Your thoughts drift to the men on deck. You can hear the faint rhythmic pad of bare feet above you, the night watch move with a silence born of years at sea. They are navigating by the Karman, the stars that hang like brilliant lanterns in the southern sky. While they track the celestial paths, you are tracking the paths of the earth, the subterranean routes and the sun-dried barks. Together you are a closed system, a self-contained universe of humanity and nature hurtling through the midnight void. The moisture in the air has increased, a sign that a light mist might be forming on the surface of the water. This humidity makes the scents even more vivid, more tactile. You can almost feel the grains of the pepper on your tongue and the warmth of the cinnamon in your throat. The tranquility you feel is not merely the absence of noise, it is a profound presence of harmony. Every element in this hold, the silk, the burlap, the leather, the clay, and the spices themselves, is in its right place. The chaos of the world has been filtered out by the vastness of the ocean, leaving only this concentrated essence of peace. You find yourself leaning further into the curve of the hull, your body molding to the shape of the ship. The boundary between the merchant and the vessel begins to dissolve. You are no longer just a traveler, you are a part of the cargo, a part of the journey, a part of the 14220 trade winds. As your eyes finally close, the darkness of the cabin is no longer empty. It is filled with the golden memory of the lamp and the vibrant colors of the spices. You see the deep green of the cardamom hills, the rich red of the mace, and the shimmering black of the pepper berries in your mind's eye. The ship gives a final deep roll, a comforting shove that feels like a parent tucking a child into bed. The sound of the waves is a constant, a liquid whisper that promises another day of steady progress toward the horizon. You surrender to the rhythm, letting the scents lead you into a deep, dreamless sleep, secure in the knowledge that you are cradled by the history of the sea. Sleepy History with Wesley combines the power of AI to reimagine fictional historical tales, bringing peace, relaxation, and positive emotional values to our listeners. The transition into the deepest part of the night is marked by a subtle shift in the ship's vibration. The Tao has found a steady current, and the rhythmic lapping against the hull has transformed into a consistent, rushing purr. Even though your eyes are closed, your mind remains active in a soft, drifting way, weaving the sense of the hold into a tapestry of historical memory. You think of the ships that sailed these same routes long before you, the Roman galleys seeking Piper Nigrum, and the bold Arab traders who first mastered the secrets of the monsoon winds. You are a link in a chain that spans 1,000 years, a guardian of a legacy that flows through these waters like a subterranean river. The cabin around you feels like a time capsule, a pocket of the 15th century where the modern world does not yet exist. There are no engines, no steel, no flashing lights. There is only the integrity of wood, the strength of fiber, and the purity of the spice. The air in the hold has reached a point of perfect saturation. It is a thick olfactory soup that feels almost heavy enough to touch. You imagine the molecules of the clove and the cinnamon dancing in the dim air, settling into the cracks of the wood and the fibers of your woolen cloak. This scent will be your shadow for weeks to come, even after you reach your destination and the hold is emptied. The ghost of this cargo will remain. A spice ship never truly loses its fragrance. It becomes a part of the vessel's soul. You find comfort in this permanence. In a world of fleeting seasons and changing fortunes, the spices represent something enduring, a connection to the earth that remains constant regardless of who sits on the throne in Delhi or who rules the seas in the west. The dhow tilts again, a slow and majestic movement that reminds you of a giant bird banking on the wind. You feel the gravity shift, and your body slides just a fraction of an inch against the teak bulkhead. The wood is smooth and cool, a stark contrast to the internal heat of the pepper and ginger stored just feet away. You think about the people who will eventually receive these goods. You see an apothecary in a distant, foggy city, carefully measuring out your cloves to ease a toothache, or a cook in a grand manner using your cinnamon to scent a celebratory banquet. They will never know your name, and they will never see the silver stars over the Laccadive Sea, but they will experience the peace and the richness you have curated tonight. This silent connection between the producer, the merchant, and the consumer is a form of invisible magic. The silence is punctuated by a new sound, the faint rhythmic creaking of the ship's rudder. It is a steady thump creak that acts as a metronome for your thoughts. It tells you that the navigator is awake, his hand firm on the tiller, guiding this fragrant world through the darkness. You feel a deep surge of fraternal love for your crew. Above you they brave the spray and the wind, while you preserve the wealth that makes their labor worthwhile. There is a profound equilibrium in this arrangement. Each man has his station, each material has its purpose, and the ocean provides the stage for it all to unfold. The humidity begins to press against your skin, a warm and salty dampness that makes the scent of the sandalwood chest flare up one last time. It is a clean, grounding smell, like a forest after a heavy rain. You let your awareness expand beyond the walls of the cabin. You feel the miles of dark water stretching out in every direction, the hidden coral reefs deep below, and the vast empty sky above. But instead of feeling small or vulnerable, you feel immense. You are the center of a fragrant universe, protected by the sturdy walls of the dhow and the ancient wisdom of the trade routes. The worry of profit and loss, of storms and pirates, has completely vanished. In its place is a pure, unadulterated presence. You are simply a man, a ship, and a cargo of spices drifting through the year 1420. The peace is absolute. The tranquility is as deep as the ocean floor. You breathe in the essence of the Malabar coast one final time before the soft, dark tide of sleep finally pulls you under, leaving the world of the hold to continue its silent, aromatic dance in the moonlight. The night has reached its deepest point, the hour where the veil between the physical world and the world of spirits is said to be thinnest. In the merchant's hold, this transition is felt as a deepening of the silence, a softening of the shadows that cling to the curved teak ribs of the dhow. You are suspended in a state of grace, neither fully awake nor entirely lost to sleep. The oil lamp has finally flickered out, leaving only the faint ghostly luminescence of the moon filtering through the narrow slats of the upper deck. This silver light touches the edges of your silk bags and the rough surfaces of the burlap, turning the hold into a treasure room of grey and mercury. Without the visual distraction of the flame, your sense of smell becomes even more acute, a sharp and piercing window into the soul of the world. The cinnamon quills tucked away in their cedar-lined boxes seem to exhale a fresh wave of sweetness in the cooling night air. It is a dry, comforting scent that reminds you of the high sun over the mountains of Ceylon. You remember the sound of the bark being stripped from the trees, a crisp, tearing noise that echoed through the groves. Now those same barks are silent travelers resting in the belly of your ship. The contrast between the vibrant, living forest and this quiet wooden sanctuary is profound. You realize that your ship is a vessel of transformation. It takes the raw bounty of the earth and, through the alchemy of the voyage, turns it into the gold of the global markets. But here, in the dark, they are still just plants, gifts from the soil, the rain, and the sun. You reach out into the darkness, your hand finding the rough texture of the floor mat. The ship gives a low, vibrating hum, a sound that occurs when the wind and the current are in perfect alignment. It is a frequency you can feel in your teeth, a resonance that connects the masts above to the keel below. This vibration seems to stir the spices, releasing a faint, dusty aroma of dried ginger and turmeric. The turmeric is earthy and musky, a scent that speaks of health and preservation. It is a golden dust that stains everything it touches. A reminder of the permanence of this trade. You imagine the yellow stains on your own fingers, a badge of your profession that no amount of sea salt can truly wash away. The atmosphere in the hold is one of absolute stillness, despite the fact that the vessel is moving at several knots across the water. This is the paradox of the sea. The fastest journeys often feel the most motionless when one is tucked away in the heart of the ship. You feel as though you're sitting in the center of a great rotating wheel. The stars are turning, the world is spinning, and the ocean is churning, but the merchant's hold is the unmoving axis. This sense of being centered provides a mental clarity you rarely find on land. Your thoughts are no longer tangled in the complexities of the Malabar markets or the demands of your creditors. They are as clear and simple as the scent of the cloves, sharp, direct, and purposeful. You hear the muffled sound of a distant wave breaking against the prow, a soft shush that sounds like a secret shared between the ship and the sea. It is followed by the low, melodic creak of the rudder post, a sound that has accompanied you for 1,000 miles. You find yourself counting the rhythm of these sounds, letting them guide your breathing into a slow, measured pace. 1, 2, rise, 3, 4, fall. The dhow is a cradle, and you are its charge. The immense wealth surrounding you, the fortunes in pepper, the riches in cardamom, is no longer a burden of responsibility. It is a pillow of security. You are the richest man in the world, not because of what these spices will sell for, but because of the peace they allow you to feel in this moment. The 1420 trade routes are long and dangerous, but for this hour the danger is an impossibility. The world is a fragrant, silver-lit dream, and you are the dreamer at its heart. The silver moonlight continues to spill through the overhead deck slats, creating a ladder of light that rests upon the stacks of burlap. In this spectral glow, the dust motes dancing in the air look like tiny grains of gold, rising and falling with every breath the ship takes. You reach out and pull a small silken pouch of star anise toward you. Even in the dark, you can feel the distinct 8-pointed shape of the dried fruit. Its scent is a sharp, cooling contrast to the heavy heat of the pepper that dominates the room. It smells of licorice and cold mountain streams, a fragrance that seems to clear the mind and sharpen the spirit. You hold the pouch against your chest, feeling the light, woody weight of it. This is the art of the merchant, to hold the world's diversity in the palm of one's hand, to be the bridge between the rugged mountains and the sophisticated palaces of the West. The dhow enters a stretch of particularly calm water, and the rushing sound against the hull softens to a gentle liquid murmur. It is as if the Indian Ocean has turned into a sheet of polished glass, reflecting the stars above in perfect, unmoving detail. Down in the hold, the silence becomes so profound that you can hear the tiny, rhythmic ticking of a wood-boring beetle somewhere deep in the ship's frame. Far from being a nuisance, the sound is a reminder of the organic nature of your world. Everything here is made of life. The wood, the hemp, the silk, and the spices. You're traveling within a living organism, a creature of teak and resin that understands the language of the swells. Your pulse slows even further, syncing with the deep, slow vibrations of the rudder. As you sit in the darkness, you begin to visualize the journey ahead. The ship will round the tip of the subcontinent, catching the trade winds that will carry it toward the red sands of the Arabian coast or the bustling ports of the Swahili shore. But that is a future version of yourself. The person you are right now in 1420 exists only in this fragrant cabin. You are a curator of stillness. You reach for a small jar of frankincense resin, not to sort it, but simply to feel its tacky, crystalline surface. The scent is ancient and resinous, evoking images of smoke rising in temple courtyards and the hushed whispers of sacred rituals. It grounds you in the history of your ancestors who traded these same resins when the world was young. The tranquility of the hold is a shield. It protects you from the relentless march of time and the chaotic demands of the shore. Here, under the pressure of the sea and the weight of the spices, you are allowed to simply exist. You are not a merchant, a sailor, or a traveler. You are a witness to the beauty of the harvest. The blend of scents, the spicy bite of the cloves, the sweet warmth of the cinnamon, and the cooling star anise creates a sensory atmosphere that is almost liquid. You feel as though you are floating in it, buoyed by the richness of the earth's bounty. The ship sways, a slow and deliberate movement that feels like a heavy curtain being drawn across the world, shutting out everything but this moment of peace. If this journey into the quiet world of 1420 has brought you a sense of calm, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and give this video a like. By joining our community, you help us preserve these moments of historical reflection and relaxation. We would love to hear from you in the comments. What scents or sounds from history help you find your own sense of peace? Your engagement is the compass that guides our storytelling. The night is moving toward its end, but the peace of the merchant's hold remains unshaken. You place the star anise back in its designated crate, the sound of the silk sliding against wood a soft final note in the evening's work. The darkness is no longer a void. It is a full and vibrant presence, charged with the energy of the spices and the history of the sea. You lean your head back, closing your eyes once more, and let the rhythmic lapping of the waves carry you deeper into the heart of the Malabar night. The pre-dawn hush settles over the Malabar Dhow, that particular silence that exists just before the world begins to wake. Below deck, the air in the merchant's hold has become a living thing, thick, warm, and pulsing with the concentrated spirit of 1,000 tropical harvests. You find yourself reaching for a small, heavy bundle wrapped in several layers of dark, waxed cloth. As you peel back the layers, a scent emerges that is different from the others, the deep, earthy, and slightly floral aroma of dried turmeric roots. These are not yet the vibrant yellow powder of the marketplace, but hard, gnarled fingers of spice, carrying the literal dust of the Indian soil. You run your thumb over the rough surface of a root, feeling its density. It is the color of a setting sun, a hidden fire that will eventually lend its brilliance to countless dishes and dyes. Sorting these feels like handling the very bones of the earth. The ship performs a slow, majestic roll, and you hear the shift of weight in the larger cargo bays beyond your cabin. It is a dull, rhythmic thud, followed by the familiar groaning of the teak hull as it adjusts to the pressure. This sound is the heartbeat of your existence. In the year 1420, a merchant's life is defined by the integrity of these wooden walls. You press your palm against a curved rib of the ship, feeling the coolness of the wood and the faint vibration of the vast ocean on the other side. There is something profoundly humbling about being separated from the abyss by only a few inches of Malabar teak. Yet in this small room, surrounded by the scents of cinnamon and clove, you feel more secure than if you were inside a stone fortress. The ship is not just a vessel, it is a trusted partner in a dance that has lasted for months. You begin to move the turmeric roots into a sturdy wooden chest, laying them in neat rows. The sound they make, a dry, skeletal clicking, is a sharp contrast to the soft rustle of the silk bags containing the cardamom. Your movements are slow and rhythmic, perfectly timed to the long, low frequency of the swells. You're not just organizing a cargo, you are performing a ritual of gratitude. Each root, each peppercorn, and each quill of cinnamon represents a life lived, a field tended, and a dream of prosperity. The world outside may be vast and often indifferent, but here, in the dim silver light of the hold, Every item has value, and every scent has a story. The humidity makes your skin feel damp and warm, a sensation that anchors you to the present moment. You are a man of the 15th century, anchored in time by the weight of your trade. As you work, the scent of the turmeric begins to ground you, its muskiness acting as a bass note to the more volatile aromas of the cloves and star anise. You think of the mountain trails where these spices were carried on the backs of bullocks, the dusty paths through the Western Ghats, and the vibrant, chaotic docks of Calicut where the air was a roar of voices and heat. This cabin is the quiet aftermath of that storm. Here, the profit and the loss don't matter as much as the sheer sensory reality of the goods. You pick up a piece of dried ginger, its surface pale and dusty. You snap a small piece off, and the sharp, spicy fragrance flares up, a tiny explosion of heat in the cool darkness. It is a reminder that even in the stillness, there is a fierce energy contained within these natural treasures. The hour of the wolf has arrived. That deepest part of the night when the stars begin to dim but the sun is still a distant promise beneath the eastern horizon. Inside the hold, the atmosphere has become almost viscous, a thick soup of history and harvest. You turn your attention to a medium-sized crate made of dark, heavy ironwood, sealed with strips of lead to keep out the hungry salt air. This crate holds the most delicate of your floral treasures, the dried buds of saffron and the petals of rose, intended for the high-end perfumers and royal kitchens of the northern sultanates. As you break the seal, a scent so sweet and hauntingly beautiful escapes that it feels as though the cabin has suddenly been filled with the ghost of 1,000 gardens. The saffron is earthy and metallic, smelling like honeyed hay and sun-baked bricks, while the rose is soft, powdery, and deeply nostalgic. You reach into the crate with a pair of fine wooden tweezers, lifting a small silk bundle that contains the saffron threads. In 1420, this is the most expensive substance on the ship, weight for weight. Each thread is a tiny crimson strand of concentrated labor, harvested by hand from the heart of a crocus flower. The sound of the threads shifting in their silk wrap is non-existent. It is a silent wealth, a quiet treasure that demands absolute focus. You move the bundles into a specialized velvet-lined box, ensuring they are kept away from the moisture of the hull. The dhow gives a sudden sharp lurch as it catches a stray cross-current, and you automatically adjust your balance, your core muscles tightening to keep your seated position steady. The ship's timbers let out a long, protesting groan, a sound like a giant's door opening on rusted hinges. It is a reminder that while you sit in a palace of perfume, you are still a prisoner of the ocean's whims. The scent of the rose petals, dried to a deep burgundy, begins to rise as you move the bags. They smell of the Persian gardens from which they came, a cooling floral scent that balances the aggressive heat of the black pepper in the adjacent sacks. You find yourself closing your eyes, letting the aroma transport you away from the wooden walls of the ship. For a fleeting second, you aren't a merchant on the Indian Ocean. You are a traveler in a cool stone courtyard, listening to the splash of a fountain and the rustle of cypress trees. This is the true power of the spices you carry. They are more than just flavor or medicine. They are vessels of memory and imagination. They allow the person who possesses them to travel across the world without ever leaving their home. The hull continues its rhythmic thumping against the water, a dull boom hiss that vibrates through your seat and up into your chest. It is a grounding sensation, a physical anchor that brings you back to the reality of 1420. You pick up a small, unglazed clay jar containing sandalwood paste. The wax seal is cool to the touch. You don't open it, but the woody, creamy scent of the sandalwood permeates the clay itself, adding a bass note of spiritual calm to the floral air. You arrange the clay jars in a row, pressing them into a bed of straw to prevent them from shattering during a storm. The straw smells of sun-dried grass, adding another layer of earthiness to the complex bouquet of the room. Your hands are now coated in a fine, invisible film of oils and dust, the literal essence of the East. As you finish with the floral crate, you sit back and look at your hands in the faint pre-dawn light. They are the hands of a man who has touched the world's most beautiful things. The tranquility you feel is no longer just mental. It is a physical weight, a warmth that radiates from your center. The world outside is beginning to stir. You hear the distant call of a seabird and the first muffled sounds of the morning watch preparing to change, but down here the night lingers. The shadows are long, the scents are deep, and the peace is undisturbed. You are the silent keeper of the world's most precious smells, and as the Tao carries you toward the dawn, you feel a profound sense of rightness. The Merchant's Hold is not just a place of business, it is a sanctuary of the senses, a place where the 15th century reveals its softest, most fragrant heart. The sky beyond the upper deck must be turning that bruised shade of violet that precedes the gold of dawn, but in the Merchant's Hold the deep indigo of night still reigns. You turn your attention to a corner of the cabin that remains draped in heavy shadow, where several long cylindrical bundles are wrapped in tanned goatskin. These are the vanilla beans harvested from the deep forests and cured until they are dark, oily, and intensely aromatic. As you untie the leather thongs, a scent that is both creamy and dark spills out, a floral sweetness tempered by a smoky, resinous undertone. It is a fragrance that feels heavy, almost like a liquid settling in the low points of the room. You lift a bundle and feel the suppleness of the beans. They are plump and glistening with their own natural oils, a sign of their supreme quality. The ship's movement has become even more languid, a slow rolling sway that feels like the Tao is being rocked by a gentle hand. You can hear the water sliding past the hull with a soft, persistent hiss, a sound like sand falling through an hourglass. You begin to separate the vanilla bundles, checking each one for the white frost of vanillin crystals that indicates a perfect cure. The sound of the leather rubbing against the wooden floor is a soft organic rasp, a sound that fits perfectly into the ship's nightly chorus. Every movement you make is a study in patience. In 1420 there is no way to rush the sea, and there is no way to rush the curing of a spice. You are living in a world governed by natural cycles, and this realization brings with it a profound sense of relief. You don't have to be faster, you only have to be present. As you handle the vanilla, the scent of the ship itself, the aged teak, the coconut fiber ropes, and the fish oil lamps, mingles with the sweet beans to create a unique perfume that only a sailor merchant would recognize. It is the smell of a life spent in transit, a life lived between horizons. You think of the mountain villages where these spices were traded for silver and cloth, and the long caravans that brought them to the coast. You are the final guardian of this long journey. You place the vanilla into a small tin-lined chest, the metal cool against your fingers. The clink of the latch as you close it is a sharp, definitive sound in the quiet room. It marks the near completion of your night's labor. You find yourself staring at the dark grain of the bulkhead, watching the way the faint light plays over the wood. The grain looks like a map of the ocean, with its own currents, eddies, and deep trenches. You feel a strange sense of intimacy with the ship. It has protected you through monsoon gales and breathless calms, and in return you fill its belly with the finest treasures of the earth. The humidity in the cabin is now so high that a thin sheen of moisture coats the wood, making it glow like polished obsidian. This dampness carries the scents deeper into your senses, making the cinnamon smell warmer and the cloves smell sharper. You are breathing in the very essence of the 15th century world, a world that is vast, mysterious, and filled with a beauty that is often overwhelming. The silence is broken by a low, rhythmic thumping from the deck above. The crew is beginning to move, preparing for the morning prayers and the first light of the sun, but you remain in your sanctuary, unwilling to break the spell of the midnight hold. You reach for a small piece of dried galangal root, its skin tough and wrinkled. You rub it between your palms, and a sharp, citrusy pine scent flares up, a final awakening for your senses. It is a clean, bracing smell that signals the end of the night. Your work is done. The spices are arranged, the treasures are secured, and the Merchant's Hold is in perfect order. You lean back one last time, letting the rhythmic lapping of the waves ground you. The tranquility is complete. You have successfully navigated the fragrant landscape of the Malabar night, and as the first hint of morning light begins to touch the mast, you feel a deep, unshakable peace. The indigo shadows of the hold begin to soften, yielding to a faint ethereal grey as the first light of the sun touches the surface of the Indian Ocean far above. Down here you are in the final stage of your midnight vigil. Your hands, now scented with a dozen different latitudes, reach for the last remaining item on your list, a small, intricately carved box made of dark ebony. This box contains the white gold, the sea salt harvested from the pristine lagoons of the Maldivian atolls. It is not a spice in the traditional sense, but it is the soul of all preservation. As you lift the lid, the scent is clean, sharp, and bracingly cold. It smells of the open sky and the crashing surf, a sharp contrast to the earthy, musky warmth of the tropical spices that have dominated your senses all night. The salt crystals are large and jagged, sparkling like unrefined diamonds in the dim light. You pick up a handful, and they feel heavy and sharp against your palm. You begin to distribute them into small, linen-lined jars that will be used to protect the more volatile resins in your collection. The sound of the salt hitting the ceramic is a bright, crystalline ring, a sharp melody that cuts through the low, rhythmic groaning of the dhow's timbers. Each crystal is a reminder of the ocean that carries you, the salt that keeps the ship afloat, and the salt that preserves the life within its hull. The ship gives a long, slow tilt, and you feel the weight of the sea pressing against the wood behind you. The vibration of the water is constant, a low-frequency hum that feels like the very voice of the 15th century. As you work with the salt, you realize that your internal clock has finally synchronized with the rhythm of the waves. Your breathing is no longer a conscious effort. It is a natural extension of the ocean's swell. The tension that you carried into this cabin at midnight has been completely absorbed by the scents and the sounds of the hold. You feel light, as if the heavy wood of the ship is not a cage, but a set of wings carrying you across the world. The aroma of the cabin is reaching its final, most complex state. The sharpness of the salt, the sweetness of the vanilla, the heat of the pepper, and the medicinal clarity of the cloves have merged into a single, indescribable perfume. It is the smell of humanity's curiosity, of a time when the world was expanding and every new scent was a discovery. You take a moment to smooth the silk bags of cardamom one last time, ensuring they are perfectly aligned. This attention to detail is your way of honoring the people who grew these plants and the sailors who will risk their lives to deliver them. In the merchant's hold, there is no room for haste or carelessness. Everything must be in balance, just as the dhow must be in balance with the sea. You look at your workspace, the empty bowls, the sealed jars, and the neatly stacked crates, and feel a sense of profound order. The chaos of the world's trade has been distilled into this one small, fragrant room. The silver light is growing stronger now, revealing the fine grain of the teak ribs and the intricate patterns of the woven mats. The night is officially over, yet the peace it brought remains anchored in your soul. You lean your head against the cool wood of the bulkhead, closing your eyes to savor the final moments of solitude. The sounds from above are becoming clearer. The splash of buckets as the deck is washed, the low murmur of the morning watch, and the rhythmic creak of the pulley as the sail is adjusted for the morning breeze. These are the sounds of life returning, but they do not disturb your tranquility. You are grounded by the weight of the spices and the memory of the midnight silence. You have successfully curated a world of sense and history, and as the dhow carries you into the golden light of a new day, you carry the fragrant peace of 1420 within you. The ocean is vast, the journey is long, but for this moment, everything is exactly as it should be. The transition from night to morning in the hold is a slow, creeping transformation of colors. The deep indigos have turned to a soft charcoal gray, and the silver light from above is now tinged with a faint pale lemon. You find yourself sitting amidst your completed work, a silent overseer of a treasure that could ransom a dozen kings. You reach for a final bundle, one that you had set aside, a small wrap of heavy indigo-dyed cotton. Inside are the dried roots of vetiver, bundled together like a traveler's whisk. As you untie the cord, the scent that rises is profoundly grounding. It is the smell of damp earth, of rain-soaked grass, and of the cool darkness beneath the forest floor. It is a heavy, woody fragrance that seems to anchor the more flighty, floral scents of the room, pulling everything back to the solidity of the land. You run your fingers over the fibrous roots, feeling their toughness. In 1420, vetiver is used not just for its scent, but as a protector, its natural oils repelling the insects that might otherwise feast on your precious silks and spices. You begin to tuck small tufts of the root into the crevices between the larger spice crates. The sound of the dry fibers rubbing against the teak is a soft shushing noise, like a secret whispered between friends. The ship gives a particularly graceful roll, and you feel the immense weight of the dhow as it leans into a larger swell. There is no jarring or crashing, there is only the smooth, muscular movement of a vessel that is perfectly at home in the deep water. The teak hull groans, a deep and resonant sound that seems to vibrate in your very marrow, reminding you of the strength that protects you. The scent of the vetiver mingles with the lingering ghost of the cloves and the sweetness of the cinnamon, creating an aroma that feels like a physical embrace. You lean back, your hands resting on your knees, and simply breathe. This is the merchant's reward, not the gold that will eventually fill your coffers, but this moment of absolute aromatic stillness. You think of the world outside this wooden shell, the vast untamed expanse of the Indian Ocean, the distant shores of Africa and Arabia, and the hidden kingdoms of the East. In this moment you are the thread that connects them all. You are a navigator of the senses, a curator of the earth's most potent memories. The humidity of the morning air begins to seep in, making the wood of the ship smell richer, a deep resinous scent that speaks of age and endurance. You watch as the first true beam of sunlight finds its way through a gap in the deck. It is a sharp, golden spear that cuts through the dimness of the hold, illuminating a cloud of spice dust that hangs in the air. The dust motes dance and swirl in the light, a miniature galaxy of pepper and ginger and silk. It is a sight of incredible beauty, a silent celebration of the night's work. You realize that your time in the hold is coming to an end. Soon you will have to climb the ladder, face the bright glare of the sun, and rejoin the world of men and movement. But the peace you have found here, in the company of the spices and the waves, is something you will carry with you. It is a reservoir of tranquility that you can draw upon when the winds turn fierce or the markets grow cold. The sounds of the ship are now loud and clear, the rhythmic thud of feet on the deck, the splash of the morning wash water and the melodic chanting of the sailors as they haul on the lines. The dhow is waking up, stretching its wooden limbs for the day's journey. You stand up slowly, your joints feeling the long hours of sitting, but your mind feeling incredibly light. You take one last look around your sanctuary. The bags are secure, the jars are sealed, and the air is a masterpiece of fragrance. You have done your duty to the cargo and to yourself. As you move toward the ladder, the scent of the Malabar coast clings to you like a blessing, a fragrant reminder of the night you spent in the heart of the world's most precious cargo, cradled by the rhythm of the 1420 seas. The golden spear of sunlight widens, spreading its warmth across the floor of the hold, and for a moment you pause with your hand on the lowest rung of the wooden ladder. The transition is nearly complete, yet the hold seems reluctant to let go of its midnight secrets. The air, which felt so heavy and mysterious just hours ago, now sparkles with a renewed clarity. You reach for a small, forgotten bowl of water used for tempering the wax seals. It has become a mirror, reflecting the intricate lattice of the ship's overhead beams. The water ripples slightly with every pulse of the sea, a liquid heartbeat that reminds you of the delicate balance you maintain. You are a merchant of 1420, a man of commerce, but in the silence of this hold you have become a philosopher of the senses. As you prepare to depart, you take one final inventory, not with your ledger but with your spirit. You look at the heavy sacks of pepper, the black gold, and feel their grounding presence. You smell the fading sharpness of the cloves and the persistent sweet invitation of the cinnamon. These are not merely goods to be traded. They are the concentrated essence of the sun, the soil, and the monsoon rains. Your work tonight has been an act of preservation, ensuring that the labor of distant farmers and the bravery of the sailors above are not wasted. The dhow groans as it catches a stronger breeze, the wood singing a higher, more energetic note. It is the sound of purpose, of a vessel that knows its destination and is eager to meet the horizon. The peace you have cultivated here is a rare treasure, more valuable than the saffron or the silk. In the bustling ports of the Malabar coast, life is a frantic scramble of noise and heat, but here in the belly of the ship you have found the center of the world. The rhythmic lapping of the waves has smoothed the rough edges of your mind, leaving you refreshed and focused. You feel a deep sense of connection to the generations of merchants who came before you and those who will follow, all of them sitting in similar holds, surrounded by the same scents, lulled by the same eternal ocean. This is the continuity of history, a thread of fragrance and sound that binds the centuries together. If this immersion into the fragrant world of the 15th century Malabar coast has brought you a sense of tranquility and wonder, please support us by subscribing to the channel and liking this video. Your engagement allows us to continue weaving these historical tapestries of relaxation and education. We invite you to share in the comments. If you could travel back to any trade port in history, which one would you choose to visit? Your thoughts and support help our community of listeners grow and find their own moments of historical peace. You begin to climb the ladder, the wood cool and solid under your grip. With each step, the scent of the hold follows you, a persistent reminder of the sanctuary you are leaving behind. The sounds of the deck above grow louder, the calls of the crew, the snap of the sail, and the cry of a lone seabird. But as you emerge into the blinding brilliance of the morning sun, you carry the darkness and the fragrance of the hold within you. The merchant's work is never truly done, but for now the cargo is safe, the ship is steady, and your heart is at rest. The vast Indian Ocean stretches out before you, a blue-gold promise of the journey still to come, but the memory of the midnight spices will be your constant companion until the next moon rises over the waves. As your head clears the hatch, the world of 1420 explodes into a brilliance that almost hurts the eyes. The Indian Ocean, which had been a symphony of shadows and silver whispers, is now a desert of liquid sapphire, glittering with a million sunsparks. You stand on the deck of the dhow, the morning wind pulling at your cotton tunic, feeling the stark contrast between the heavy, fragrant heat of the hold and the sharp, salt-laden breath of the open sea. Your skin, still damp from the humidity below, begins to dry in the cool breeze, leaving a faint crust of salt and the lingering perfume of cloves. You look toward the bow where the great lateen sail is belly full of wind, its canvas taut and singing. The ship feels different now, no longer a silent cocoon, but a living, breathing creature of speed and power. You glance back down into the dark rectangle of the hatch. It looks like the entrance to another dimension. Down there, time is measured by the drip of wax and the slow sway of a lamp. Up here, it is measured by the position of the sun and the speed of the whitecaps. You see the serang standing at the stern, his hand light on the tiller, his eyes fixed on the distant line where the blue of the water meets the pale turquoise of the morning sky. There is no land in sight, only the infinite circle of the horizon, yet you feel anchored. The weight of the spices beneath your feet acts as a ballast for your soul. You know exactly where you are and what you carry. You are the custodian of a fragrant fortune, a bridge between the lush forests of the coast and the stone cities of the north. One of the younger sailors passes you, carrying a coil of choir rope. He stops for a moment, sniffing the air as he brushes past you. He smiles, recognizing the scent that clings to your clothes, the unmistakable sharp bite of black pepper and the woody sweetness of cinnamon. To him, that smell means safety. It means a successful voyage and the promise of coin when they finally reach the docks. You realize that you aren't just carrying cargo, you're carrying the hopes of everyone on this ship. The tranquility you found in the dark has now transformed into a quiet, steady strength. You walk toward the gunwale and lean over, watching the bow wave peel back in two perfect frothing sheets of white. The water is so clear you can see the golden green light penetrating deep into the swells. The sounds of the morning are rhythmic and industrious. The rhythmic thwack-thwack of a wet cloth against the deck as a sailor mops. The melodic calls of the men adjusting the rigging, and the constant reassuring hiss of the sea against the teak hull. These sounds are the cousins of the creaks and groans you heard below. They are the language of a world in motion. You close your eyes for a second and the scents of the hold rush back to your mind. The cooling cardamom, the earthy turmeric, the royal saffron. They are still there, just beneath the planks, waiting in the dark. You feel a sudden, profound sense of gratitude for the Malabar coast, for the trees that gave their bark and the flowers that gave their buds, so that you could stand here on this wooden deck in the middle of a vast and beautiful mystery. The sun climbs higher, turning the pale sky into a deep, vibrant azure. The heat of the day is beginning to build, but you don't mind. You're a man of the tropics, a child of the monsoon winds. You reach into a small pouch at your belt and find a single dried clove you must have picked up during your sorting. You place it on your tongue, and the sudden numbing heat of it makes your senses flare. It is a tiny, concentrated spark of the night's work. As the dhow surges forward, cutting through the waves with effortless grace, you realize that the piece of the merchant's hold wasn't something you left behind. You are the merchant, and you carry that piece with you. A fragrant secret hidden in the heart of the 1420 sway. 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3. And you. The morning sun is now a steady weight upon your shoulders, warming the deck planks until the scent of the teak itself begins to rise, a dry, resinous perfume that speaks of the forest's endurance. You stand by the mast, watching the sailors go about their duties with a rhythmic precision that mirrors your work in the hold. The transition from the solitary silence of the midnight counting room to the communal energy of the morning deck is seamless. You are no longer just a merchant, you are a part of the ship's living mechanism. The wind has freshened, blowing from the northeast, carrying the faint, ghostly scent of distant land, perhaps a salt marsh or a hidden mangrove forest, though the horizon remains a clean, unbroken line of sapphire. You find yourself reflecting on the incredible journey these spices have made before even reaching your hands. You think of the pepper vines climbing the lofty trees of the Western Ghats, their roots drinking in the torrential rains of the monsoon. You think of the mountain folk who hand-picked each berry, drying them on woven mats under the fierce Indian sun until they turned into the dark, wrinkled pearls of wealth you organized just hours ago. This realization adds a layer of sanctity to your trade. You are not merely moving commodities, you are moving the lifeblood of the earth. Every bag of cardamom and every quill of cinnamon is a concentrated piece of the sun's energy, harvested and preserved for the benefit of those who live in colder, darker climates. The dhow heels slightly to the left as it catches a stronger gust, and you instinctively find your sea legs, leaning into the tilt. The water below is a vibrant, churning white where the hull slices through the swells, a sound like 1,000 silken banners snapping in the wind. You look down at your hands again. The fine dust of the turmeric and the oils of the clove have been partially washed away by the sea spray, but the memory of their texture remains. You feel a deep internal resonance with the ship. The teak beneath your feet is the same teak that forms the ribs of your private cabin below. It is a material that connects the heights of the sky to the depths of the sea. You walk toward the stern to speak with the navigator, an old man whose skin is as weathered and brown as the ship's own timber. He looks at you and nods, his eyes crinkling in a silent acknowledgement of the night's work. He knows the value of what lies beneath the deck. He feels it in the way the ship sits in the water, heavy and stable. There is a profound trust between the man who steers and the man who owns the cargo. In the year 1420, this trust is the foundation of the world's economy. Without it, the silk routes would crumble and the spice trade would vanish into the spray. You stand together in silence for a moment, two guardians of a fragrant world, watching the sun turn the ocean into a field of liquid gold. The tranquility you found in the midnight hold has now expanded to encompass the entire horizon. The fear of storms, the anxiety over prices, and the weariness of the long voyage have all been replaced by a singular focused presence. You are alive in a time of great discovery, a witness to the beauty of a world that is still vast and full of wonder. As the morning progresses and the heat of the day begins to shimmer over the water, you feel a deep, abiding sense of peace. The dhow carries you forward, a wooden cradle on an endless blue cradle, and you're content to be exactly where you are, a merchant of the Malabar, sailing through the heart of history, wrapped in the scent of the east and the rhythm of the eternal waves. The sun has reached its zenith, standing directly over the mainmast and erasing every sliver of shadow from the deck. Under the brilliant heat of 1420, the dhow seems to emit a shimmering aura composed of sea salt and wood resin. You find a small sanctuary beneath a canopy of woven palm fronds, where the sea breeze still manages to cut through, bringing the immediate chill of the ocean to soothe the sweltering tropical heat. Sitting down on a mat of coconut fiber, you feel the vibrations of the ship more clearly than ever. This is when the ocean is at its most tranquil. The waves no longer roar but gently cradle the hull, creating a lullaby rhythm that invites a deep, meditative calm. You pull a small splinter of cinnamon from your pocket, a fragment left over from the midnight inventory. You bring it to your nose, and miraculously, amidst the heavy scent of brine, the sweet, warm fragrance of the bark remains powerful. It reminds you that although the ship is small against the vastness of the sea, what it carries within holds the weight of entire civilizations. These quills will soon find their way into the opulent palaces of Cairo or the ancient apothecaries of Baghdad. You feel like a messenger of nature, carrying the whispers of the Malabar earth across the world. The silence of high noon is not empty. It is filled with the profound fulfillment of a man who has completed his sacred duty. From this vantage point you observe the sailors sharing a simple midday meal of dried fish and parboiled rice, seasoned with the very spices you are transporting. The faint scent of turmeric rises from the communal pot, mingling with the salt air to create a unique flavor of long-distance travel. You realize that spices are not just commodities. They are the threads of survival. They purify water, preserve food, and warm the souls of those far from home. A sense of pride wells up within you, not the arrogant pride of the wealthy, but the deep satisfaction of a craftsman protecting the treasures of humanity. The ship tilts slightly as the wind shifts, and the choir ropes let out a soft hiss as they tighten under the pull of the massive lateen sail. That sound, combined with the rhythmic lapping of the water, creates a wordless melody that lulls every anxiety to sleep. In this moment, time seems to stand still. There is no turbulent past, no uncertain future in distant ports. There is only the present, a radiant, golden present scented with the forest. You lean your head against the gunwale, letting your eyes half close, enjoying the perfect intersection of the sun's heat and the ocean's cool breath. The midday meal concludes, and the sailors return to their tasks, but the peace does not vanish. It merely transitions from a state of stillness into a gentle flow of energy. You stand up, breathing in the air full of sun and salt, feeling vibrant and alive. The journey is still long, and the ports ahead are waiting, but with the tranquility built within the hold last night, you know you can face any storm. The dhow continues to glide forward, cutting through the waves toward the west, carrying a content merchant and a treasury of spices sleeping beneath the afternoon sun. The afternoon deepens, and the gold of the sun begins to mellow into a rich, honeyed amber. On deck, the intensity of the heat has passed, replaced by a soft, enveloping warmth that seems to draw the sense out of the very grain of the ship. You find yourself standing near the aft, watching the wake of the dhow, a long, churning ribbon of white foam that stretches back toward the invisible Malabar coast. The movement of the ship is so steady now that it feels as though the ocean itself is moving beneath you, while the vessel remains a fixed point of peace in an ever-shifting world. Your mind drifts back to the silence of the hold, and you realize that the internal stillness you found there has become a permanent part of your being. You reach into a small crate that was brought up for the evening meal, containing fresh lime and ginger. You slice a piece of the ginger with a small brass knife, and the sharp, citrusy heat of the root immediately fills the air around you. In 14220, this root is a shield against the humours of the sea, a burst of terrestrial energy that keeps the spirit bright. As the juice of the ginger stings your fingers, you look out at the horizon, which is beginning to blush with the first hints of violet. The tranquility of the voyage is a physical weight, a comforting pressure that reminds you of your place in the grand design of the trade routes. You are not just a merchant, you are a traveller between worlds, a keeper of the earth's fire. The crew begins the evening prayer, their voices rising in a melodic, rhythmic chant that harmonizes with the creaking of the masts. It is a sound of profound submission and gratitude, a human echo of the ocean's own pulse. You stand in respectful silence, letting the vibrations of their voices wash over you. The air is cooling rapidly, and with the cooling comes a new clarity to the sense. The smell of the black pepper in the hold below seems to rise through the cracks in the deck, a dark, spicy foundation for the salty evening air. You feel a deep sense of belonging to this wooden world, this floating sanctuary that defies the chaos of the deep. The first stars begin to prick through the fading canopy of the sky, tiny lanterns of silver that have guided your ancestors for centuries. The navigator takes his place by the tiller, his silhouette dark against the deepening purple of the east. You know that soon the cycle will begin again, the lamp will be lit, the hold will be visited, and the spices will be tended in the velvet dark. But for now you simply exist in the transition. The peace of the afternoon is merging into the mystery of the night. The dhow surges forward, its prow cutting a path through the darkening water with a confidence born of 1,000 successful journeys. You are at home on the dark water, wrapped in the scent of ginger and the protection of the teak, as the world of 1420 turns slowly toward the stars. The sky has surrendered its amber glow to a deep, velvety indigo, and the first true shadows of the night begin to reclaim the deck. The transition is marked by a sudden, refreshing drop in temperature. As the heat stored in the teak planks radiates back into the cooling air, you find yourself sitting by the main mast, feeling the immense strength of the timber as it flexes under the weight of the wind. Above you, the great sail is a dark, swelling ghost against the starlight, pulling the ship toward the unknown with a persistent, rhythmic hum. The world of 1420 has shrunk once more to the dimensions of this vessel, a floating island of wood and spice navigating the vast, liquid silence of the Indian Ocean. You reach for a small piece of dried galangal root from a wooden bowl nearby, rubbing its rough skin between your palms. The scent that emerges is sharp and medicinal, with notes of pine and citrus that seem to cut through the heavy saltiness of the sea air. This fragrance is a reminder of the mountain forests where the earth is cool and damp, a stark contrast to the endless blue horizons of your current reality. In the merchant's life, these scents are your maps. They tell you where you have been and where you are going. You close your eyes, letting the aroma of the galangal ground you, and you listen to the ship. The dhow is talking to the sea, a dialogue of splashes, creaks, and whistles that only a seasoned traveller can truly understand. Below your feet, the cargo is settling for the night. You imagine the tons of black pepper, the thousands of cinnamon quills, and the precious bundles of silk all exhaling their combined essence into the confined space of the hold. That concentrated atmosphere is the heart of your world, a treasure house that breathes in rhythm with the swells. The tranquility you feel now is deeper than sleep. It is a state of total alignment with the elements. You are a part of the wind, a part of the wood, and a part of the fragrance. The anxieties of the market, the fear of pirates, and the longing for home are all submerged beneath the overwhelming peace of the present moment. The navigator's lantern is a small, flickering star at the stern, casting a warm amber light over the weathered ropes and the bronze fittings. You watch the rhythmic motion of the stars above the masthead. They seem to dance in time with the ship's roll, a celestial clockwork that has guided merchants since the dawn of time. There is a profound sense of safety in this ancient regularity. As the night air becomes crisper, you pull your woolen cloak tighter, feeling the lingering warmth of the spices infused in the fabric. You are ready for the midnight watch, ready to descend once more into the fragrant dark of the hold. The dhow carries you onward, a silent predator of the trade winds, moving through the 15th century with the grace of a dream. The bell for the second watch has not yet sounded, but the air has taken on that crisp, crystalline quality that signals the true start of the maritime night. You stand at the edge of the cargo hatch, looking down into the square of absolute blackness that leads to the merchant's hold. The transition from the starlit deck to the lightless belly of the ship feels like a descent into a sacred tomb, but one filled with life rather than death. As you climb down the ladder, the first thing that greets you is not a sound, but a physical wall of fragrance. It is thicker than it was during the day, a concentrated essence of the Malabar earth that has been brewing in the stillness. The scent of nutmeg is particularly strong now, a warm, nutty, and slightly sweet aroma that seems to coat the back of your throat. You strike a spark and light your small oil lamp, the flame struggling for a moment before growing into a steady golden orb. The shadows retreat to the corners, hiding behind the stacks of burlap and the iron-bound chests. You reach for a small bag of mace, the lacy crimson outer covering of the nutmeg. In the year 1420, this delicate spice is as precious as gold, used by healers to steady the nerves and by chefs to scent the banquets of sultans. You run your fingers over the brittle, dried fibers, and they release a fragrance that is more floral and refined than the nutmeg itself. It is a scent that speaks of high summer and the buzzing of bees in the spice groves. Handling it in the quiet of the night, you feel a sense of reverence for the intricacy of nature's design. The ship gives a long, groaning sigh as it leans into a deep swell, and you hear the familiar rattle of the peppercorns within their heavy sacks. It is a dry, cascading sound like a rain of small stones. You move through the narrow aisles, checking the tension of the ropes that lash the larger crates to the hull. Your movements are slow and deliberate, a meditative dance performed in the heart of the vessel. The silence here is profound, broken only by the rhythmic heartbeat of the ocean against the teak. You find yourself leaning your forehead against a cool, smooth jar of sandalwood oil, letting the woody, creamy aroma wash over you. This is your meditation, the act of being present with the treasures you have spent your life collecting. The lamp flickers, casting long, dancing shadows of your own figure against the curved ribs of the ship. You look at these shadows and see the ghosts of all the merchants who have stood where you stand, centuries ago and centuries yet to come. The trade in spices is an eternal cycle, a bridge of scent that spans across time and distance. You feel a deep, unshakable peace in this continuity. The weight of the cargo, the danger of the voyage, and the pressure of the markets are all transformed into a singular focus, the preservation of these fragrant lives. As you prepare to spend the coming hours in this dark sanctuary, you realize that the hold is not just a place of business, it is a cathedral of the senses, where the 15th century reveals its most intimate and peaceful secrets. The oil lamp casts a steady, warm glow over a pile of small, unassuming bundles wrapped in dried banana leaves. These contain the long pepper, a spice more pungent and earthy than the common black variety, favored by the physicians of the East for its warming properties. As you gently untie the hemp cord, a scent that is both sharp and musky fills the immediate air, smelling of rain-soaked earth and smoke. In the quiet of 1420, these are the scents that define reality. You pick up one of the catkin-like spikes, feeling its rough, pebbled texture. It is a humble-looking thing, yet it carries the power to transform a meal or heal a fever. You place it back with care, realizing that in this hold there is no such thing as a minor cargo. Every leaf and root is a vital piece of the world's grand mosaic. The ship performs a slow rhythmic pitch, and the sound of the ocean outside becomes a muffled, percussive thud against the thick teak planks. It is a comforting sound, the heartbeat of a giant protecting you from the abyss. You move toward the section where the resins are stored, specifically seeking out the myrrh. As you lift the lid of the cedar chest, the aroma is instantly recognizable, bitter, medicinal, and ancient. It is a scent that has lingered in the temples of Egypt and the markets of Rome, a fragrance that transcends time itself. You touch a dark, translucent tear of the resin, its surface slightly tacky. The bitterness of the smell seems to sharpen your senses, clearing the lingering sweetness of the mace and nutmeg. You find a seat on a low crate of cloves, letting your body settle into the rhythm of the ship's motion. The humidity in the hold has reached a peak, and the air feels heavy, almost like a warm liquid that you breathe in. This thick atmosphere carries the scents deeper into your lungs, making the experience of the cargo visceral and all-encompassing. You are no longer just an observer, you are being saturated by the very essence of the 15th century trade. The walls of the hold seem to breathe with you, the wood expanding and contracting in the humid night. There is a profound sense of safety in this enclosure, a feeling of being cradled in the very womb of the earth's bounty. The lamp's flame dances slightly as a draught of cool air snakes down from the deck, carrying a hint of the salt spray and the open sky. It is a reminder of the vast, wild world waiting outside this fragrant cocoon. You look at the rows of jars and sacks, each one labeled with neat, ink-brushed characters, and you feel a sense of profound order. Amidst the chaos of the shifting tides and the unpredictable winds, this room remains a sanctuary of logic and beauty. You close your eyes, letting the bitter myrrh and the smoky long pepper mingle in your mind. The tranquility is absolute. You are the silent witness to the world's most precious secrets held in the dark wooden heart of a dhow sailing through the timeless night of the Indian Ocean. The ascent from the hold feels like emerging from a dream into a world of silver and shadow. As your head clears the hatch, the salt air of the open ocean hits you with a bracing clarity, washing away the heavy, syrupy heat of the spices. The deck of the dhow is bathed in the ethereal light of a waning moon, which turns the spray of the waves into a shower of falling diamonds. You stand there for a moment, adjusting your eyes to the vastness of the horizon after the intimate confinement of the hold. The transition is profound from the static, scented dark to the dynamic, roaring night. The wind is stronger now, a steady hand pushing the vessel across the liquid desert of the 1,420 seas, and the sail above you glows like the wing of a great celestial bird. You walk toward the bow, feeling the spray settle on your skin like a cool mist. The scent of the hold still clings to your hair and clothes, a lingering ghost of cinnamon and cloves that refuses to be entirely erased by the sea. You lean against the gunwale and watch the bioluminescence dancing in the ship's wake, tiny sparks of cold blue fire that flicker and die in the churning foam. It occurs to you that you are traveling between two infinities, the infinite depth of the ocean below and the infinite reach of the stars above. In the middle of this vastness, the dhow is a fragile yet resilient shell carrying the concentrated essence of the land across the heart of the waters. The tranquility you feel is no longer a quiet meditation, it is an exhilarating sense of freedom. The sounds of the night deck are different from the day. There is no shouting, no clatter of work, only the persistent rhythmic thrum of the wind in the rigging and the melodic hiss of the hull slicing through the swells. You find a spot near the forward mast and sit, resting your back against the cool wood. The vibration of the ship's movement travels through your spine, a reassuring reminder of the power at your command. You reach into your sleeve and find a small, stray piece of star anise that must have fallen there while you were sorting the spices. You hold it up to the moonlight, its eight-pointed shape looking like a tiny wooden star. You press it between your thumb and forefinger, and the scent of licorice and spice flares up, a small terrestrial fire in the cold night air. The navigator, a silent shadow at the stern, adjusts the tiller, and the ship responds with a graceful sweeping turn that aligns it more perfectly with the trade winds. You feel the surge of speed, the way the dhow seems to lift itself out of the water and fly in this moment. The year 1420 feels like a pinnacle of human achievement. You are part of a global heartbeat, a network of courage and fragrance that connects distant shores. The peace that envelops you is absolute, born from the knowledge that you are exactly where you belong. You are the merchant, the traveler, and the dreamer, cradled by the stars and guided by the scent of the east, sailing ever forward into the mystery of the dawn. The moon begins its slow descent toward the western horizon, casting a long shimmering path of crushed silver across the water. You remain at the bow, the rhythmic plunging of the dhow into the swells acting as a powerful sedative for any remaining restlessness. The air has turned remarkably cold, a sharp contrast to the humid sanctuary you left below, and you can smell the deep, clean scent of the open abyss, a mixture of cold salt, ancient depths, and the faint, metallic tang of the night wind. In the year 1420, this is the purest air a man can breathe, untainted by the smoke of cities or the dust of dry plains. It feels as though each breath is scouring your spirit, leaving you as polished and resilient as the teak hull itself. You find yourself staring at the stars, the constellations of the southern sky hanging like heavy jewels above the masthead. To the sailors of this age, these are not just lights, they are a map, a calendar, and a promise. You identify the steady glow of Canopus and the faint guiding presence of the Southern Cross. There is a profound sense of humility in realizing that these same stars watched over the first rafts that ventured into these waters, and they will watch over the great fleets yet to come. The tranquility of the night is not a lack of motion, but a harmony of it. The ship, the wind, the stars, and the merchant are all moving in a synchronized dance, a silent choreography that spans the width of the Indian Ocean. You reach down and touch the deck planks, feeling the fine layer of salt that has crystallized there. It feels like sand beneath your fingertips. Your mind returns briefly to the cargo, the spices that are currently breathing in the hold beneath you. You think of how those roots and seeds represent the stillness of the earth, while you and the ship represent the restless energy of the sea. It is a perfect marriage of opposites. The spices provide the purpose, and the ocean provides the path. As the dhow rises over a particularly large swell and slides down the other side with a graceful rushing sound, you feel a surge of pure, uncomplicated joy. This is the essence of the 15th century journey, the mastery of distance through patience and the appreciation of the world's hidden treasures. The silence of the deck is suddenly joined by a low, melodic hum. It is the navigator at the stern singing a soft ghazal to the wind, his voice a gravelly but comforting thread of sound that weaves through the rigging. The song is about a garden in a distant land, a place of roses and cool water, and it perfectly complements the scent of the star anise still lingering on your fingers. You close your eyes and let the music and the scent carry you away. You are no longer just a man on a ship. You are a part of the wind's narrative. The tranquility is complete, a seamless blanket of sound, scent, and motion. As the first hint of pre-dawn grey begins to wash out the deepest blacks of the sky, you remain anchored in this moment of perfect peace, a voyager at the heart of the world. The pre-dawn light is a subtle spectral grey that slowly dissolves the sharp edges of the night. It is a quiet, fragile hour where the world seems to hold its breath, caught between the fading majesty of the stars and the impending fire of the sun. You remain at your post near the bow, watching as the silhouettes of the rigging become more defined against the pale sky. The wind has softened to a gentle caress, and the ocean has smoothed into a vast sheet of hammered lead, rippling only where the dhow's prow creates a delicate silver wake. The scent of the sea has changed again. It is now fresh and damp, carrying the cool moisture of the morning dew that has begun to settle on the wooden railings and the canvas of the sail. You stand up to stretch your limbs, feeling the rhythmic creak of the ship's joints as a sympathetic echo in your own bones. You look down at your hands, which are still stained with the faint yellow hue of the turmeric you handled hours ago. In this dim, transitional light, the stain looks like a mark of ancient gold. You realize that you have spent the entire night in a state of sensory immersion, a journey that has been as much internal as it has been across the map. The tranquility you feel is heavy and solid, like the ballast in the ship's belly. It is a peace that comes from the total acceptance of the elements, the dark, the light, the salt, and the spice. A single flying fish breaks the surface of the water, skittering across the grey expanse like a thrown silver coin before disappearing back into the depths. The sight is a brief, beautiful reminder of the life that teems beneath you, miles deep and invisible. You think of the spices in the hold, cloves, ginger, pepper, and how they too were once hidden, growing in the dark soil or the dense shade of the jungle. Now they are here suspended between the sky and the sea, travelling toward a destiny they could never have imagined. You feel a deep kinship with your cargo. Like them, you have been plucked from the familiar and are being carried by the winds of trade toward an unknown horizon. The navigator moves silently at the stern, his movements fluid and economical as he prepares for the morning change of watch. The smell of wood smoke suddenly drifts across the deck. The cook has lit the small, sand-lined fire pit to prepare the morning's tea. The scent of the smoke is sharp and homely, cutting through the vast, impersonal smell of the ocean. It brings a sense of warmth and human presence to the cold grey morning. You take one last look at the fading stars, a silent farewell to the guardians of the night. The peace of the 1420 merchant is a quiet flame, burning steadily amidst the immense scale of the world. As the first sliver of gold touches the edge of the eastern horizon, you feel ready for the day, your spirit anchored by the memory of the midnight spices and the rhythm of the eternal waves. The sun finally breaks the horizon, a sudden flash of molten gold that spills across the leaden water, turning the world into a blinding landscape of fire and light. This is the moment of the great awakening for the Tao. As the warmth hits the deck, the moisture on the planks begins to evaporate, creating a thin, ethereal mist that swirls around your feet. The transition is violent in its beauty. The cool, contemplative grey of dawn is instantly replaced by a vibrant, pulsating energy. You stand at the rail, shielding your eyes, feeling the heat of the 1420 sun begin to soak into your woolen cloak. The scent of the hold, which had been a quiet companion through the night, suddenly surges upward again as the ship's wood expands, releasing a deep, resinous sigh of teak, cloves, and ancient dust. The sailors begin to stir, emerging from their sleeping spots like shadows coming to life. Their movements are rhythmic and practiced. Some begin to haul on the sheets to trim the sail for the morning breeze, while others start the daily ritual of swabbing the deck with buckets of seawater. The sound of the water splashing against the wood is rhythmic and refreshing, a percussive accompaniment to the waking sea. You watch as the cook prepares the first brew of the day, throwing a handful of crushed cardamom and a generous slice of fresh ginger into a blackened pot of boiling water. The aroma is intoxicating, a sharp, spicy, and uplifting fragrance that cuts through the briny air and signals the start of human industry. You move toward the stern to greet the master of the vessel, your footsteps silent on the damp wood. There is an unspoken understanding between you. You are the architect of the cargo, and he is the master of the path. He offers you a small cup of the spiced tea, the steam rising in a fragrant cloud that warms your face. As you take the first sip, the heat of the ginger and the floral sweetness of the cardamom bloom in your chest, grounding you in the reality of the day. The tranquility of the night has not vanished. It has merely evolved into a state of quiet, focused readiness. You are no longer navigating the internal world of scent and memory. You are navigating the physical world of wind, current, and destination. The Tao is now fully alive, leaning into a freshening breeze that smells of salt and infinite space. The horizon, which was once a blurry line of grey, is now a sharp indigo edge that defines the limit of your world. You look back at the hatch leading to the hold, knowing that beneath the busy feet of the crew, your treasures are resting in their dark aromatic beds. The pepper, the cinnamon, the saffron, and the silk, they are the silent partners in this dance of survival and profit. You feel a profound sense of harmony with the vessel and the age you live in. In 1420 there is no rush, only the steady, relentless progress of the trade winds. You drain your cup, feeling the strength of the spices in your blood, and prepare to face the brilliance of the morning, a merchant of the deep, forever guided by the rhythm of the waves. The morning progresses, and the sun climbs higher, transforming the ocean into a mirror of polished brass. The dhow, now fully caught in the embrace of the trade winds, cuts through the swells with a purposeful grace. You find yourself back at your small writing desk in the cabin, just above the waterline, where the air is a perfect blend of the sea's salt and the hold's spices. It is time to record the night's observations in your ledger. The parchment is thick and slightly rough, and as you dip your quill into the dark gallnut ink, the scratching sound of the nib becomes a private rhythm against the constant roar of the ocean outside. In the year 1420, these records are as vital as the cargo itself. They are the memory of the journey, the proof of the merchant's stewardship. You write of the condition of the cloves, the weight of the nutmeg, and the vibrancy of the saffron. As you describe the scents in your neat, flowing script, you realize that words are barely enough to capture the reality of the experience. How do you describe the way the air feels when it is saturated with the soul of 1,000 pepper vines? How do you record the peace that comes from sitting in total darkness, surrounded by the wealth of the earth? You stop for a moment, letting the ink dry, and look out of the small circular porthole. The water is a deep, translucent turquoise, and every now and then a spray of foam leaps up to lick the thick glass. You are suspended in a world of blue and brown, the blue of the infinite sea and the brown of the protective wood and the ancient spices. The ship gives a sudden, playful lurch as it summits a larger wave, and your inkwell slides an inch to the left before you catch it. You smile, feeling the life of the vessel beneath your fingers. This is not just a commercial enterprise, it is a pilgrimage. You are carrying the very essence of the East to the West, a bridge of fragrance that spans thousands of miles. The tranquility you found during the midnight watch has settled into your bones, giving you a clarity of purpose that no storm could shake. You feel a deep gratitude for the silence of the hold, for it taught you how to listen to the whispers of the world. The scent of the ink, sharp and slightly vinegary, mingles with the lingering aroma of the cardamom tea, creating a new, industrious fragrance that defines your morning. As you close the ledger and seal it with a drop of red wax, you feel a sense of completion. The night's work is fully integrated into the day's reality. You stand up and make your way back to the deck, stepping from the dim, ink-scented cabin into the overwhelming brilliance of the tropical noon. The heat is a physical presence, but it no longer feels oppressive. It feels like the energy of the sun being absorbed by the ship and its cargo. You look out over the bow, toward the invisible lands that lie ahead, knowing that you carry within you and beneath you a treasure that is timeless. The dhow sails on, a wooden cradle of history and fragrance, moving through the heart of 1420 with the steady, unhurried pulse of the eternal Indian Ocean. The midday sun of 1420 is a relentless artisan, hammering the surface of the Indian Ocean into a sheet of undulating white fire. You find yourself seeking the shade of the mainmast, where the massive lateen sail casts a cooling, indigo shadow across a section of the deck. The air here is heavy and still, trapped between the canvas and the wood, and it carries the most complex bouquet of the entire journey. It is the scent of the ship's very soul, the sun-baked teak, the salt-encrusted choir ropes, and the ghost whispers of every spice that has ever rested in the hold below. You sit cross-legged on the planks, feeling the intense heat of the wood through your cotton robes, a warmth that feels like the earth's own heartbeat vibrating against your skin. You take out a small whetstone and your merchant's knife, beginning the rhythmic task of sharpening the blade. The shur-shur of the stone against the metal is a grounding sound, a sharp industrial counterpoint to the organic groans of the Tao. As you work, you notice a thin trail of ants emerging from a seam in the deck, moving with frantic purpose toward a microscopic crumb of dried fruit. Even here, in the middle of 1,000 miles of water, life is persistent and organized. It reminds you of your own place in the grand machinery of trade. You are a single point in a vast web of sailors, harvesters, and scholars, all held together by the gravity of these precious spices. The tranquility of the moment is not one of idleness, but of deep, resonant belonging. The smell of the ocean changes as the afternoon begins to lean toward evening. The sharp, metallic tang of the noon heat softens into a rounder, more ozonic fragrance, smelling of deep water and distant rain. You look to the north, where a bank of towering cumulus clouds has begun to pile up like a mountain range of bruised purple and brilliant white. In 1420, such clouds are the harbingers of the monsoon's breath, a reminder that the peace of the sea is a gift, not a right. Yet you feel no fear. The Tao is heavy with ballast, its hull seasoned by a decade of salt, and your heart is anchored by the stillness you cultivated in the dark of the hold. You feel a strange sense of kinship with the coming storm, as if it is simply another layer of the world's grand aromatic narrative. A sailor approaches and offers you a piece of dried shark meat, its surface crystalline with salt. You chew slowly, the tough, savory flavor a stark contrast to the delicate sweetness of the cinnamon you handled earlier. This is the food of the journey, raw, honest, and enduring. As the sun begins its slow descent, turning the sails from white to a dusty rose, you realize that your identity has become inseparable from the voyage. You are no longer just a man from the Malabar coast. You are a creature of the trade winds, a custodian of the fragrant bridge. The Tao surges forward, its prow cutting through the golden swells with an ancient, unhurried confidence, carrying you and your treasury of scents toward the edge of the known world. The late afternoon sky begins to bruise with shades of deep plum and charcoal as the distant storm clouds draw closer, yet the wind remains a steady guiding hand. The heat of the day has finally broken, replaced by a cool, damp draft that smells of ozone and wet stone. You stand at the stern, watching the navigator's steady hands on the tiller. The ocean has shifted from a bright turquoise to a dark, brooding cobalt, the whitecaps looking like jagged teeth against the deepening gloom. Despite the changing weather, the atmosphere on the Tao remains one of profound calm. In 1420, a merchant learns early that the sea has many moods, and to survive is to respect them all without losing one's internal center. You reach into a small wooden chest kept near the steering bench, pulling out a handful of dried citrus peels and a few cloves of garlic. These are the humble guardians of the crew's health, their sharp, pungent aromas acting as a sensory anchor against the vast, impersonal smell of the approaching rain. You crush a piece of the dried peel between your fingers, and the burst of concentrated oils, bitter, bright, and clean, reminds you of the sun-drenched groves of the interior. Even in the face of a storm, these scents carry the promise of the land. You realize that your cargo is not just a collection of luxury goods, it is a library of terrestrial memories, a way to transport the very essence of the earth across the shifting, unstable waters. As the first few drops of rain fall, large, heavy, and cold, they strike the warm teak deck with a sharp hiss, releasing a sudden cloud of steam. This breath of the ship is a unique fragrance, a mixture of toasted wood, salt, and the lingering sweetness of the spices rising from the hatches. You close your eyes and inhale deeply, letting the scent fill your lungs. The tranquility you feel now is more complex than the stillness of the midnight hold. It is a vibrant, alert peace. You are aware of the tension in the ropes, the weight of the cargo shifting slightly below, and the cool prickle of the rain on your skin. You are a part of the ship's response to the world, a single thread in the fabric of the 15th century maritime experience. The clouds eventually swallow the sun, plunging the world into a premature twilight. The navigator lights a small oil lamp, its flame encased in a thick glass lantern to protect it from the spray. The warm golden light reflects off the wet deck, creating a small circle of sanctuary in the growing darkness. You look out at the horizon where the line between sea and sky has completely vanished. There is no fear, only a deep meditative focus. The Tao is a sturdy vessel, and your spirit is buoyed by the richness of the treasures you carry. As the rain begins to fall in earnest, washing the salt from the wood and the dust from your clothes, you feel a sense of profound purification. The journey continues, a steady pulse of trade and fragrance moving through the heart of the storm toward the dawning of a new day. The rain intensifies, turning into a rhythmic drumming that vibrates through the thick teak planks of the dhow. It is a cleansing deluge, stripping away the accumulated salt crust of the past few days and leaving the wood dark and gleaming like polished obsidian. You retreat slightly into the lee of the aft cabin, watching the water cascade off the edges of the lateen sail in silver sheets. The scent of the world has been completely transformed. The heavy syrupy sweetness of the spices has been pushed down, replaced by the primal electric smell of the monsoon. It is a cold, sharp fragrance that speaks of the sky's power, yet beneath it, if you breathe deeply, you can still catch the warm, defiant heart of the ship, the smell of wet teak and the faint, persistent musk of the black pepper sacks breathing through the cracks in the deck. In the year 1420, such a downpour is not an obstacle but a blessing. The crew moves with a quiet efficiency, catching the fresh rainwater in large canvas troughs to replenish the ship's jars. You watch them work, their dark skin glistening under the lantern light, their movements a synchronized dance of survival. There is a profound silence in their labor, a shared understanding that speech is unnecessary when the elements are speaking so loudly. You find yourself leaning your head against a support beam, feeling the vibration of the thunder as it rolls across the hidden horizon. This is the ultimate tranquility, the peace of being small and protected within a sturdy vessel while the great forces of nature move around you. You reach into the folds of your wet cloak and find a small wooden prayer bead that has been infused with the scent of agarwood oil. As you rub it between your fingers, the deep, woody and slightly balsamic aroma rises to meet the scent of the rain. It is a grounding influence, a reminder of the quiet temples and the still forests of your home. You realize that your entire journey is a balance of these two states, the wild, unpredictable energy of the sea and the structured, aromatic order of the merchant's world. The storm is not an interruption, it is a necessary part of the cycle, a way to test the strength of the wood and the resolve of the spirit. As the heaviest part of the squall passes, the wind settles into a low, steady moan through the rigging. The rain thins to a fine mist, and for a moment the clouds part to reveal a single brilliant star hanging in a patch of velvet sky. The navigator points to it, a silent acknowledgement of their path. You feel a surge of quiet triumph. The dhow has weathered the burst, the cargo is dry, and the scent of the ship is now fresher and more vibrant than before. You stand up, your damp clothes heavy but your spirit light, and look out over the darkened waters. The journey through the 15th century continues, a path of fragrance and starlight moving ever forward through the vast breathing peace of the Indian Ocean. The aftermath of the storm leaves the air with a clarity so piercing it feels as though you could reach out and touch the very edge of the world. The humidity has been swept away, replaced by a cool, thin breeze that carries the scent of the deep ocean, a mineral-rich, cold fragrance that lacks the spice-heavy weight of the previous hours. You walk across the deck, your leather sandals making a soft, wet sound against the cleaned wood. The moon, now high and unobstructed, casts a clinical white light that illuminates every rope, every splinter, and every seam of the dhow. It is a moment of absolute transparency in the year 1420. The world feels scrubbed clean of its mysteries, leaving only the reality of wood, water, and wind. You move toward the main hatch, compelled by a sudden need to check on the cargo after the turbulence of the squall. As you lift the heavy cover just a few inches, a warm, dry ghost of an aroma escapes from the darkness below. It is the scent of dry earth, of toasted seeds, and of sun-withered bark. It is a shocking contrast to the wet, cold world above. You realize that the hold is a time capsule preserving the heat and the fragrance of the Malabar coast, even as the ship traverses the cold heart of the sea. You reach down and touch the top of a burlap sack filled with cumin seeds. The fabric is bone dry, and through the weave you can feel the tiny, hard ridges of the seeds. The scent they release is warm, nutty, and slightly bitter, a grounding reminder of the terrestrial stability that pays for this voyage. Returning to the rail, you lean out over the water, watching the phosphorescence churned up by the hull. In the wake of the storm, the bioluminescence is more vivid than ever, glowing like liquid emeralds in the dark. The tranquility you feel now is a crystalline state of being. The storm has taken your fatigue and washed it into the sea, leaving behind a sharp, focused energy. You think about the markets of the Red Sea that lie weeks ahead. The shouting, the bargaining, the dust and the heat. They seem like a different lifetime. Here, on the vast expanse of the 15th century ocean, there is only the present. The peace is not merely the absence of noise, it is the presence of a profound cosmic order. The ship is moving faster now, the cleaned sails catching the post-storm wind with renewed vigor. The sound of the bow wave is a crisp, tearing noise, like silk being rent in a quiet room. You find a small coil of rope to sit on, closing your eyes and letting the salt spray lightly dust your face. The scent of cumin still lingers on your fingertips, mingling with the ozonic smell of the night air. You are a man caught between two worlds, the ancient fragrant earth and the eternal shifting sea. In this moment of perfect alignment, you understand that the journey is not about reaching the destination, but about becoming one with the motion itself. The Tao carries you forward, a silent messenger of the earth's bounty, gliding through the silver night with the grace of a celestial body. The night begins to deepen into its final, most silent phase, the time when the ocean seems to turn inward and the stars burn with a cold, unwavering intensity. The Tao is a dark, rhythmic shape moving through a world of liquid ink. You find yourself drawn back to the center of the deck, where the heat of the day has lingered in the thickest sections of the mainmast. Leaning against it, you can feel the subtle, powerful vibrations of the wind being translated into mechanical force, a low-frequency hum that resonates in your chest. In the year 1420, this is the music of progress, the groan of timber, the snap of canvas, and the steady hiss of water against the hull. The tranquility is so dense it feels tangible, a weightless blanket that has settled over every man on board. You reach into a small silk pouch at your waist and extract a single piece of candied ginger, crusted with large translucent sugar crystals. As you bite into it, the sharp, fibrous heat of the root explodes across your tongue, followed by the cooling sweetness of the sugar. It is a sensory bridge back to the land, a reminder of the gardens where the earth is tilled and the sun is a life-giver rather than a stern master. The scent of the ginger, now fresh and sharp, mingles with the fading aroma of the post-storm ozone, creating a moment of internal warmth. This simple act of tasting becomes a meditation on survival and luxury, the two pillars of the merchant's existence. Below the deck, you know the cargo is exhaling its collective soul. The cloves are dreaming of the rain, the pepper is radiating the heat of the Malabar sun, and the sandalwood is holding its creamy, woody secret close to its heart. You imagine the fragrances swirling in the dark, mixing and layering until they form a scent that exists nowhere else on earth, the scent of a traveling kingdom. The peace you feel is a form of stewardship. You are the guardian of this invisible atmospheric treasure, ensuring that the essence of one world reaches the nostrils of another. The 15th century is a time of slow connections, where the patience of the traveler is as valuable as the gold of the buyer. The navigator makes a subtle adjustment to the sails, and the ship leans further into the wind, increasing its speed. You watch the masthead as it carves slow, deliberate arcs across the constellations. There is no anxiety about the future, no lingering regret about the past. There is only the ship, the scent, and the stars. The tranquility of the voyage has stripped away the unnecessary layers of your mind, leaving only a core of quiet observation. You are a witness to the vastness, a passenger on a vessel that is itself a part of the sea's natural order. As the moon begins to dip toward the horizon, casting longer, more dramatic shadows across the deck, you remain in your state of watchful peace, a merchant of the infinite, sailing through the aromatic heart of the world. The stars begin to lose their sharp crystalline edges as the first suggestion of a new dawn bleeds into the eastern horizon. The world of 1420 is returning to a state of visibility, transitioning from the silver and black mystery of the night to a soft charcoal grey. You remain seated by the mast, your body having long ago adapted to the gentle, persistent swaying of the dhow. The air is at its coldest now, a biting damp chill that seems to draw the lingering warmth out of the wooden planks. You pull your cloak tighter, but the cold is not unwelcome. It brings a sharp mental clarity that the heavy, humid heat of the day often obscures. The scent of the sea is dominant, vast, brine-filled and ancient, but beneath it, like a persistent memory, is the faint, dry tickle of the cinnamon stored deep in the belly of the ship. You watch the crew begin to stir in the dim light, their forms appearing like grey ghosts against the darker grey of the deck. There is a profound beauty in the silence of their routine. A sailor moves to the forward rigging, his hands sure and steady as he checks the knots that held through the night's squall. You find yourself focusing on the scent of the ship's ropes, heavy fibrous hemp treated with fish oil and tar. It is a rugged industrial smell that speaks of labour and endurance, a stark contrast to the delicate floral notes of the jasmine attars tucked away in ceramic jars. This duality is the essence of your life, the marriage of the harsh, salt-bitten reality of the sea with the refined, aromatic elegance of the cargo you carry. As the grey sky turns to a pale, milky violet, you stand up and walk to the bow. The water ahead is smooth and opaque, resembling a sheet of hammered pewter. The dhow's prow cuts into it with a soft, rhythmic sound, a gentle tearing that is the only break in the morning's stillness. You reach into a small wooden box and pull out a piece of dried olibanum, frankincense resin from the shores of Arabia. You don't burn it, you simply rub it between your palms until the warmth of your skin releases its high, citrusy and pine-like fragrance. It is a scent of purification, often used in temples to clear the air for prayer, and here in the middle of the ocean it serves to clear your mind for the day ahead. The tranquility you feel is a state of total equilibrium, a balance between the vastness of the horizon and the intimacy of the scent in your hands. The first sliver of the sun finally pierces the horizon, and the world is suddenly flooded with a low horizontal light that turns the spray of the waves into sparks of gold. The transition is complete, the night's vigil has ended, and the day's journey has begun. You look back at the hatch of the hold, knowing that the treasures within have survived another night of the 15th century crossing. The pepper is still pungent, the silk is still smooth, and the spirit of the merchant remains unbroken. You feel a deep, quiet strength, a peace that is not fragile but forged in the wind and the salt. As the dhow surges forward into the new light, you are ready to continue the story, a silent traveller on the fragrant path of the eternal sea. The full ascent of the sun brings a surge of vitality to the dhow as the morning light transitions from a gentle gold to a piercing white brilliance. The dampness of the night is quickly reclaimed by the air, and the scent of the ship shifts once more. The heavy ozonic smell of the storm has finally dissipated, replaced by the warm baking aroma of the teak decks and the dry, spicy exhalations of the cargo. You move toward the midships where the crew is preparing a simple morning meal. The smell of parched grain and salted fish mingles with the ever-present cardamom, creating a scent that is both humble and fortifying. In the year 1420, these small comforts are the anchors of a sailor's soul, and as a merchant, you appreciate the way a single spice can turn a survival ration into a reminder of home. You decide to perform a routine inspection of the upper crates, those lashed to the deck under heavy canvas. As you peel back a corner of the protective covering, the sun hits a stack of cedar chests. The heat immediately draws out the rich, balsamic scent of the wood, a deep, resinous fragrance that is both sturdy and sweet. Inside these chests are the fine textiles, the muslins and silks, that absorb the surrounding aromas like a sponge. You run your hand over the edge of a chest, and for a moment, you can almost feel the bustling energy of the weaving sheds in Calicut. The tranquility of the sea does not erase the memory of the land. It refines it, turning the chaotic noise of the market into a singular focused appreciation for the object itself. The wind has picked up, coming from the northeast with a steady rhythmic pulse that sends the dhow dancing over the waves. You watch the whitecaps breaking in the distance, each one a fleeting blossom of foam against the deep sapphire of the water. There is a profound sense of order in this movement. You realize that your life as a merchant is not about controlling the elements, but about aligning yourself with them. The peace you feel is the peace of the passenger who trusts the vessel, the navigator, and the trade winds. You reach for a small piece of dried galangal root, chewing it slowly. Its sharp, peppery, and slightly ginger-like heat wakes up your senses, grounding you in the physical reality of the morning. As the sun reaches its zenith, the shadows of the rigging shrink until they are nothing but thin, dark lines on the white-hot deck. You find a spot of shade near the aft and sit, watching the horizon. The world of 1420 is vast and largely silent, a place where news travels at the speed of a sail, and the only clock is the movement of the celestial bodies. This slowness is a gift. It allows you to notice the way the light changes the color of the sea, the way the scent of the cloves deepens in the heat, and the way the wind hums a different tune as it passes through the tightened ropes. You are a man in no hurry, for you are already where you need to be. The journey is the destination, and the fragrance of the world is your constant faithful companion on the endless blue road. The high noon of the 15th century carries a weight that is almost physical, a shimmering pressure that flattens the waves and turns the horizon into a blur of heat. You retreat to the shaded side of the cabin where the air is slightly cooler and heavy with the scent of old parchment and the residual musk of the hold. In this stillness, you take out a small piece of fine pumice to clean a smudge of ink from your fingers. The dry, abrasive scent of the stone reminds you of the volcanic islands far to the east, the very birthplace of the nutmeg and mace you carry. It is a strange, beautiful loop of existence. The earth provides the spice, the sea provides the passage, and the stone provides the means to record the history of both. The tranquility of this hour is absolute, a silent peak in the day's rhythm where time itself seems to drowse under the vertical sun. You look at a small bowl of fresh water on your desk, watching how the surface remains perfectly level despite the forward surge of the dhow. It is a testament to the skill of the shipbuilders and the steady hand of the navigator. You dip your fingers into the water and touch your brow, the coolness a sudden sharp relief against the ambient heat. The scent of the water is neutral, almost invisible, yet it acts as a palate cleanser for your senses, allowing you to once again distinguish the individual notes of the ship's atmosphere. You can smell the faint, bitter tang of the iron nails, the sweet rot of a stray bit of seaweed caught in the scuppers, and the deep, earthy hum of the turmeric sacks. Each scent is a data point, a confirmation that the world is as it should be. A sudden low whistle from the lookout breaks your reverie, but it is not a signal of danger. A pod of dolphins has appeared alongside the hull, their sleek grey bodies slicing through the water with effortless power. You stand and move to the rail, watching them play in the pressure wave of the prow. Their presence is a sign of good fortune, a living blessing upon the voyage. As they leap and dive, they kick up a fine spray that the wind carries to your face, smelling of the deep, cold currents and the vitality of the open ocean. You feel a surge of uncomplicated joy, a connection to the wild, non-human world that shares this vast blue space with you. The tranquility of the merchant is enriched by these moments of spontaneous grace, reminding you that your cargo is only one part of the ocean's vast treasury. As the afternoon begins to stretch out, the sun losing its harsh verticality, you return to your seat. The shadows of the masts begin to lengthen once more, stretching across the deck like the fingers of a giant. The wind remains your constant ally, filling the sail with a soft, persistent thrum. You realize that the peace you have found on this journey is a form of resilience. It is a stillness that does not fear the storm or the silence, but accepts both as necessary parts of the crossing. You close your eyes for a moment, letting the scent of the cedar, the salt, and the distant spices merge into a single golden chord of memory. The dhow sails on, a tiny fragrant speck of human intent moving through the immense indifferent beauty of the 1,420 seas. The transition into the late afternoon brings a soft, amber glow that glazes the entire dhow in a hue of antique gold. The intense, bleaching heat of midday has finally surrendered to a cooling breeze, one that carries the faint, sweet scent of land breeze from an island hidden far beyond the horizon. It is a scent of damp earth and green growing things, a ghostly contrast to the dry, concentrated spice breath of the hold. You stand by the mainmast, watching the crew prepare for the evening shift. The tranquility of this hour is different from the stillness of the night. It is an active, golden peace, a sense of having endured the sun's trial and emerged into the mercy of the cooling light. In the year 1420, this is the hour of reflection, when the merchant calculates not just his profits but the value of the air he breathes. You reach into a small lacquered box and pull out a piece of dried sandalwood. You use a small knife to shave a few thin curls into a metal brazier, not to burn them, but to let the residual heat of the deck draw out their creamy, woodsy soul. The aroma rises in invisible waves, weaving through the scent of the salt air and the smell of the cooking fire at the bow. It is a grounding fragrance, one that speaks of ancient forests and the slow passage of centuries. You find yourself thinking about the journey as a whole, not as a distance travelled, but as a series of aromatic chambers you have passed through. From the damp, peppery humidity of the Malabar coast to the salt-sharp clarity of the open sea, each stage has had its own distinct olfactory map. The sea has taken on a deeper, more resonant blue, the waves tipped with a flickering orange fire from the sinking sun. You watch a group of shearwaters gliding just inches above the water, their wings never touching the surface as they follow the contours of the swells. Their grace is a mirror to the dhow's own movement, a seamless integration into the natural world. You feel a profound sense of lightness. The worries of the world, the complexities of trade, and the dangers of the deep seem small and manageable in the face of such immense beauty. This is the tranquility of the 15th century traveller, a deep, quiet confidence born from the rhythm of the waves and the reliability of the stars. You are a part of a great, silent cycle, a carrier of scent and story. As the sun touches the edge of the world, it flattens into a brilliant crimson disk, casting a path of liquid light that seems to lead directly to the heart of the ship. You take a final deep breath of the sandalwood-infused air, feeling it settle in your lungs like a promise. The shadows on the deck are long now, stretching toward the east, pointing the way you have come while the prow points toward the future. You are ready for the night once more. The hold is safe, the wind is steady, and the spirit of the merchant is at rest. The dhow sails on, a wooden sanctuary of fragrance and peace, moving through the closing gates of the day into the infinite embrace of the 1420 night. The sun vanishes beneath the waves in a final, spectacular flare of emerald and violet, leaving the sky in a state of bruised twilight. This is the hour when the dhow seems to double in size, its masts reaching up to touch the first faint stars that puncture the darkening dome. You walk toward the stern, feeling the shift in the ship's temperature as the wood begins to release the heat it absorbed throughout the day. The scent of the evening is profound, a mixture of cooling teak, the sharp tang of the oil lamps being lit, and a sudden concentrated surge of aroma from the hold as the cooling air draws the spice scent upward. It is as if the ship is exhaling after a long, hot day of labor. In 14220, this transition into the night is a sacred time, a return to the realm of the navigator and the dreamer. You find the master of the ship standing by the tiller, his face a map of deep lines illuminated by the soft glow of the binnacle lamp. He offers you a small piece of dried date, its surface sticky with concentrated sugar. As you chew, the deep, dark sweetness provides a sudden burst of energy, a grounding contrast to the ethereal vastness of the rising night. The scent of the date, fruity, earthy, and ancient reminds you of the desert caravans that will eventually meet your ship at the journey's end. You realize that you are the middle link in a chain that stretches from the deepest jungles to the driest sands. The tranquility you feel is the peace of the connector, the one who holds the thread that binds these disparate worlds together through the medium of fragrance and trade. The ocean has turned into a field of moving shadows, the whitecaps now appearing as ghostly flickers in the peripheral vision. You lean against the railing and look down at the hull's edge, where the bioluminescence is beginning to wake up once more. The tiny glowing organisms sparkle in the wake like fallen stars, creating a secondary galaxy beneath the ship. You reach into your pocket and find a single clove, its shape like a small rusted nail. You press your thumbnail into its head, releasing a sharp, numbing burst of oil. The scent is medicinal and powerful, a fragrant shield against the damp chill of the night air. It is a reminder that even the smallest part of your cargo carries enough potency to alter the atmosphere around you. As the last traces of the sunset fade into a deep, velvety indigo, the Tao settles into its nocturnal rhythm. The sound of the water is more pronounced now, a steady, shushing roar that lulls the spirit into a state of meditative focus. You feel a sense of absolute alignment with the vessel and the age. There is no desire to be anywhere else, no longing for the land or the destination. The tranquility of the merchant is the discovery that the movement itself is a home. You are a traveller in 1420, guided by the stars and carried by the scent of the east, moving through the immense dark peace of the Indian Ocean with a heart as full as the hold beneath your feet. The night is yours, the sea is yours, and the journey continues. The velvet darkness of the deep night in 1420 has fully reclaimed the world, leaving the Tao as a solitary island of wood and human intent. You sit on a low stool near the center of the ship, the stillness around you so profound that you can hear the soft rhythmic breathing of the crew members resting nearby. The air has become heavy with a cold, salt-laden moisture that clings to your skin and the fabric of your robes. In this environment, the scents from the hold act as a warm, invisible beacon. The aroma of the black pepper is particularly strong now, a sharp, woody heat that seems to cut through the dampness of the ocean air, providing a sensory warmth that has nothing to do with temperature. It is the scent of sun-baked hills and fertile soil held captive in small, wrinkled berries. You light a small, shielded lantern and place it on the deck. The flicker of the flame casts long, dancing shadows that play against the curves of the sail and the lines of the rigging. You take this moment to inspect a small sample of mace you collected earlier, the lacy, vibrant crimson outer covering of the nutmeg seed. Even in the dim light, its color is a startling organic red. As you crush a small piece between your fingers, the fragrance that emerges is a complex masterpiece. It is lighter and more floral than nutmeg, yet it possesses a spicy, citrus-like edge that clears the senses. This is the delicate soul of the East, a fragrance so prized that wars will one day be fought over it. Yet here it is resting quietly in your hand amidst the silence of the sea. The tranquility of the night is a living thing, a vast rhythmic pulse that matches the rising and falling of the swells. You feel a deep sense of humility, realizing that you are crossing an abyss that could swallow entire civilizations, yet you are kept afloat by a few inches of seasoned timber and the collective wisdom of generations. The peace you feel is not the absence of danger, but the presence of mastery. You are a merchant of 1420, a man who has learned to read the wind with his skin and the cargo with his nose. You reach for a small flask of rosewater, pouring a few drops into your palms and rubbing them together. The scent of 1,000 damask roses blooms in the middle of the Indian Ocean, a fleeting, beautiful bridge to the gardens of Shiraz. As the Tao plunges into a deeper trough, sending a shower of phosphorescent spray over the bow, you feel a surge of quiet, internal strength. The journey is long, the risks are many, but the rewards are measured in more than just gold. They are measured in these moments of perfect clarity, where the scent of roses, pepper, and salt merge into a single experience of being alive. You look up at the Southern Cross tilting slowly in the sky and know that you are exactly where you are meant to be. The hold is a treasury of the earth's scents, the ship is a cradle of human ingenuity, and you are the silent witness to the magnificent, fragrant mystery of the 15th century world. The night remains your sanctuary, and the sea remains your path. The middle of the night brings a stillness that feels almost architectural, as if the darkness has solidified into a grand, silent cathedral around the Tao. The wind has shifted to a low, steady hum, a monochromatic sound that provides the perfect backdrop for the symphony of scents rising from the ship's interior. In the year 1420, this is the hour of the true merchant, the time when the physical weight of the cargo seems to manifest as a spiritual presence. You walk slowly toward the forward hatch, where the smell of the cloves is most concentrated. It is a dense, medicinal, and intoxicatingly sweet aroma that seems to vibrate in the cool night air. To you, this scent is not merely a commodity, it is a concentrated essence of the volcanic soil and the humid tropical rains that nurtured the trees in the distant Moluccas. You sit near the hatch and pull a small smooth stone from your pocket, a piece of carnelian you carry for luck. It has absorbed the warmth of your body, and as you turn it over in your fingers, you think about the permanence of the earth compared to the transience of the water. The tranquility of this moment is deep and resonant. You are suspended between the celestial clockwork above and the biological treasure below. The scent of the cloves is joined by the faint, earthy musk of the vetiver roots used to line the crates, a damp, cooling fragrance that anchors the spicy high notes. This layer of scent is your protection, a sensory boundary that defines the human space of the ship against the infinite, indifferent salt of the sea. As you look out over the water, you notice that the bioluminescence has settled into a steady, rhythmic glow, marking the path of the dhow with a trail of pale, ghostly fire. There is no sound but the occasional creak of a timber or the soft splash of a leaping fish. You feel a profound sense of unity with the vessel. Every plank, every rope, and every bag of spice is part of a single living organism traversing the 15th century world. You reach into a small pouch and find a few seeds of green cardamom. You crack one open with your teeth, and the sudden, herbal, almost eucalyptus-like burst of flavor clears your head and sharpens your vision. It is a tiny, potent spark of life in the midst of the vast, dark peace. The stars above are so bright they seem to cast faint shadows on the deck. You track the movement of the Great Bear as it rotates slowly around the invisible pole, a silent guardian of your northward progress. The peace you experience now is a form of ancient knowledge, the realization that the journey is a sacred trust. You are not just moving goods, you are moving the very soul of the land across the heart of the ocean. As a light dew begins to settle on the rigging, turning the ropes into silver threads in the starlight, you remain at your post. The scent of cloves, cardamom, and sea salt envelops you in a protective shroud, a merchant monk in the temple of the world, sailing through the eternal fragrant night toward a dawn that is still many hours away. The pre-dawn hour of 1:20 descends with a heavy velvet silence that seems to press the dhow deeper into the swells. This is the time when the boundaries between the sea and the sky dissolve completely, leaving the ship suspended in a void of pure, unadulterated shadow. You stand at the center of the deck, the only soul awake besides the silent shadows at the tiller. The air has reached its maximum density of moisture, a thick, cool mist that carries the scent of the ship's own history. You can smell the deep, resinous heart of the old teak beams, a scent that is both woody and slightly metallic, like ancient earth. It is the smell of a forest that died a century ago to become this vessel, and in the stillness you feel a profound gratitude for the strength of the wood that separates you from the abyss. You reach into your robes and touch a small leather-bound cylinder containing a scroll of high-quality incense sticks made from the pounded bark of cinnamon trees and honey. You do not light one, for the wind would steal its delicate prayer, but even through the leather, the warm, sugary heat of the cinnamon permeates the air around you. It is a scent that speaks of temple courtyards and quiet rooms, a stark contrast to the vast, impersonal roar of the ocean. The tranquility of this moment is a fragile, beautiful thing, a pause in the breath of the world. You are a merchant, yes, but in this darkness you are also a keeper of memories, holding the fragrant essence of the land in a world made entirely of water. The ship gives a long, slow groan as it climbs a particularly high swell, and for a moment you feel the weight of the thousands of pounds of spice beneath your feet. They are silent and dark in the hold, yet they are the true masters of the voyage. The black pepper, the nutmeg, the ginger, they are the reasons for every blistered hand and every sleepless watch. You realize that your cargo is breathing with you, a slow chemical respiration that fills the ship's lungs. The peace you feel is the peace of the steward, the one who ensures that this collective breath is not extinguished by the salt. You find a small dry spot near the mainmast and sit, closing your eyes to let your other senses expand. The sound of the rigging becomes a low-frequency hum, a vibration that matches the steady thrum of your own heart. As the first, almost imperceptible grey light begins to ghost across the eastern horizon, the stars start to fade, one by one. The world of 1420 is preparing to reveal itself once more. You feel a sense of renewed purpose as the chill of the morning begins to bite through your cloak. The scent of the sea is sharpening, turning from a deep, musky salt to a crisp, ozonic bite. You stand and stretch, your joints popping in the silence, and look toward the prow. The journey is far from over, but the night has given you its gifts of silence and clarity. You are a man of the spice routes, a traveller of the great blue road, and as the Tao moves toward the dawning light, you carry the aromatic soul of the world within you, steady and serene amidst the shifting tides. The grey dawn of 1420 breaks over the Indian Ocean, with a solemn, quiet majesty, stripping the mystery from the waves and replacing it with the hard, cold reality of the day. As the sun begins to lift its head, the light is not yet warm, but it is enough to illuminate the fine mist of salt spray that hangs in the air like a shroud. You walk to the railing and look at the water, which has turned from black to a deep, bruised purple. The scent of the morning is thin and sharp, a mixture of cold brine and the smell of wet hemp. The tranquility of the night has shifted into a more alert, watchful peace. You can hear the first movements of the crew as they wake, the soft padding of bare feet on the damp deck and the low, guttural murmurs of men who have lived at sea for most of their lives. You reach into a small carved soapstone box and find a piece of dried ambergris, a treasure found on a beach months ago. You rub its waxy surface, and the scent that rises is complex and primordial, musky, earthy and sweet, like the ocean's own perfume. It is a scent that lingers, a fragrance that refuses to be washed away by the wind or the rain. Holding it, you feel a connection to the massive creatures that roam the depths beneath the Tao's keel. The 15th century world is full of these hidden connections, where the waste of a whale becomes the luxury of a sultan. Your life as a merchant is to recognize these values, to be the one who sees the gold in the grey stone and the fragrance in the dried bark. As the sun clears the horizon, the temperature rises a few degrees, and the ship's hold begins its daily exhalation. A warm draught of air rises from the gaps in the wood, carrying a heavy, sweet note of star anise. The scent is unmistakable, licorice-like, spicy, and clean. It cuts through the salt air with an aggressive cheerfulness, reminding you of the high mountain forests where it was gathered. You realize that your Tao is not just carrying spices, it is carrying the geography of the East. Each sack is a different province, each jar a different climate. The peace you feel is the satisfaction of the cartographer, mapping the world not with ink and parchment, but with smell and memory. You are at the center of a fragrant map, and every coordinate is a blessing. The wind remains steady, pushing the Tao westward with a relentless, silent power. You watch the navigator take his morning sightings, his eyes fixed on the transition between the sea and the sky. There is a profound sense of trust in this movement. The ship is a sturdy shell, the men are capable, and the cargo is precious. You find a piece of dry flatbread and eat it slowly. The simple, dusty flavor of the grain, a perfect accompaniment to the rich, layered scents of the morning. The tranquility of the voyage has become your natural state, a quiet strength that allows you to face the vastness of the ocean without fear. As the day begins in earnest, the world of 1420 opens before you, a wide blue expanse filled with the promise of distant shores and the enduring fragrance of the spice-born peace. The morning sun of 1420 climbs higher, shedding its pale grey skin for a vibrant, blinding gold that sets the ocean surface ablaze. The Tao, now fully awake, hums with the purposeful energy of a vessel in mid-crossing. You find yourself near the main hatch again, drawn by the increasing warmth that activates the deeper layers of your cargo. As the wood heats up, the scent of the ship becomes a thick, palpable atmosphere. The dominant note now is the dry, sharp heat of the turmeric, an earthy, mustard-like fragrance that carries the weight of the sun-baked soil. It is a scent that feels solid and dependable, a golden dust that colors everything it touches. You run a finger along the edge of a crate and find a fine yellow residue, a tiny leak from a sack below that smells of the ancient medicinal heart of the land. In this brilliant light, the tranquility you feel is no longer inward and meditative, but expansive and connected. You look up at the great lateen sail, its white canvas taut and straining against the sky, and you see the intricate dance of the shadows cast by the rigging. Each rope and pulley is a line of logic, a testament to the thousands of years of maritime wisdom that brought you to this point in the 15th century. You reach into a small horn-handled jar and take out a pinch of salt-preserved plums. The tart, salty, and slightly floral flavor is a sharp awakening for your palate, cutting through the heavy sweetness of the spice-laden air. It is a reminder of the balance required for survival, the sour with the sweet, the salt of the sea with the sugar of the fruit. The crew has begun the morning ritual of swabbing the deck, and as the buckets of seawater hit the wood, the air is briefly filled with a fresh, cooling steam. This scent of washed wood is one of your favorites. It is clean, honest, and fleeting. It reminds you that even the most precious cargo must be carried on a foundation of cleanliness and order. You watch the water drain out of the scuppers, carrying away the dust of the night and leaving the teak planks dark and cool for a few precious minutes. The peace of the merchant in 1420 is the peace of the observer. You are the one who notices the way the moisture brings out the grain of the wood and the way the spice scent waits in the shadows, ready to reclaim the air as soon as the deck dries. As the dhow leans into a particularly strong gust, you feel the raw power of the Indian Ocean coursing through the hull. The ship doesn't fight the water, it slides over it, a graceful guest in a vast blue house. You realize that your tranquility is rooted in this lack of resistance. By accepting the wind, the sun, and the salt, you have become as enduring as the spices you carry. You reach for your journal, the paper smelling of old glue and goatskin, and write a single line about the way the light hits the turmeric dust. The journey continues, a steady, fragrant pulse in the heart of the world, as you and your vessel move ever westward through the timeless, sun-drenched peace of the Great Spice Crossing. The sun begins its final descent toward the western horizon, not with a flare of violence, but with a slow, dignified melting into a sea that has turned the color of liquid copper. This is the moment where the long arc of the voyage feels its first pull toward the end in the distance. The sharp, salty air begins to change. It carries a new weight, a scent of dry scrub, roasted coffee, and the heavy, sweet perfume of blossoming acacia trees. Land is near. The year 1420 is drawing a line under this particular crossing, and the dhow seems to sense the change, its timbers groaning a little less as it enters the calmer coastal waters. The tranquility you feel now is the peace of completion, the quiet satisfaction of a man who has successfully navigated the vast, fragrant void of the world. You go below one last time to the heart of the ship. The hold is dark, but the air is a thick, solid block of aroma, a final, concentrated masterpiece of the East. The cloves, the pepper, the cinnamon, and the sandalwood have spent weeks together in this wooden womb, their scents merging into a single, indescribable fragrance that represents the very soul of global trade. You reach out and touch a sack of nutmeg, feeling the hard, round shapes of the seeds within. They are safe, they have crossed the world, survived the storms and the heat, and are ready to be transformed into the wealth of nations. You take a final deep breath of this air, filling your lungs with the essence of the 15th century, knowing that once the hatches are opened at the docks, this specific private atmosphere will be lost to the winds of the market. Coming back up to the deck, you see the first faint flicker of a shore fire. The navigator gives a quiet command, and the great sail is reefed, the canvas fluttering like the wings of a tired bird. The sound of the bow wave softens to a gentle ripple. You stand at the prow, the scent of the land now dominant, the smell of dust, people, and wood smoke rising to meet the cooling salt. The transition is almost complete. You have moved from the infinite to the finite, from the cosmic peace of the open sea to the bustling reality of the harbor. You reach into your pocket and find the small piece of frankincense you held nights ago. You cast it into the water, a final offering to the sea that carried you. As the anchor is let go with a sudden splashing roar, The Tao shudders and comes to rest. The silence that follows is profound. You look up at the stars, the same ones that guided you through the storm, and realize that while the journey has ended, the fragrance remains with you. You are a different man than the one who left the Malabar coast. You are seasoned by the salt and tempered by the stillness. The story of the merchant is written in the air, a trail of spice and memory that spans the oceans. As the first rowing boats approach from the shore, their lanterns bobbing in the dark, you close your eyes and savor the last moment of pure maritime peace. The Tao has arrived, the cargo is delivered, and the fragrant heart of the world beats on, steady and eternal, in the deepening 1420 night.
Sleepy History with Tales is created for relaxation, entertainment, and sleep purposes. The stories shared on this channel are inspired by historical events, daily life, and real periods in history, but they may be simplified, adapted, or narrated in a calming way to enhance the listening experience. This content is not intended to be a precise academic or educational source. While we aim to stay generally accurate, some details may be altered for storytelling flow and relaxation. Please do not rely on this channel as a primary source for historical research or study. By listening, you acknowledge that this content is designed to help you unwind, relax, and fall asleep. Thank you for your understanding and support.